Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman here with our full review of Week 13 in college football. And Dalton, for anyone who's looking at the desk right now and saying, wait a minute, they're only reviewing 6 games. Yes, we're going to review only 6 games here on the show today. But also, later on in the show, we're going to get to what I think everyone's talking about right now, and that is what exactly are the tiebreaker scenarios for every team in the Power Four to get into conference title weekend next week. Because, Dalton, we don't have a single team in any Power Four conference that has clinched a spot in a conference title game yet. All 4 are still wide open right now going into the final weekend of the regular season.
Well, there's scenarios where this could be very simple, and there's scenarios where this could be very complicated. Even if you get by the Power Four, we're going to have hard-hitting action from Thursday, Thanksgiving night, all the way through the end of Saturday, trying to figure these things out, figure out the conference standings, figure out playoff spots and at-large berths, and that's obviously going to drag into conference championship weekend. But the suspense could not be higher. Coming out of yesterday, there's a lot of teams that got themselves a lot of really good results, and there's a lot that are kind of hanging in the balance of some other results this coming weekend that are feeling like their season's on the line without it being in their control.
So we got that to go over. We have our Heisman segment. We're going to rank the top 5 Heisman candidates going into the final weekend of the regular season. And, of course, our playoff bracket as well to go into it. We got our guy, Andrew Harbaugh, on the chat right now saying, I was wrong, you were right. I'm stupid and you're smart, and I need to and will do better with my parlay picks. You got to love the Andrew Harbaugh's owning up to it right there and saying, I'm going to be better.
Listen, you and I are in the same boat.
Yeah,
of course, Eli's
we also got it wrong, buddy.
Eli's the only one that hit this week,
yeah.
Man. I'm like, he got the NC State game on Friday. Good on him, but we went blank too, man. We get it, Andrew.
I love Harbs putting a hand up though right there and being like, hey, I'm going to be better next week.
Oh, unprovoked.
We're going to be better. Yeah, we will all be better next week. PJ, also in the chat, Dalton, right now saying, when is this Syracuse-Notre Dame recap? Syracuse dominated time of possession in that game.
They did.
I believe Notre Dame only had the ball for 16 minutes in that game.
Yeah. When you dominate possession, usually good things happen.
Now, of course, it's a 70-7 final score. But Syracuse did cover the live line of 69.5 points, though.
You got the 7. That's what matters.
So, yeah, and Syracuse was underdogs by 69.5 points at one point in that game, and they covered that spread. So, congrats to Fran Brown and the boys.
You're getting places.
For getting that win right there. But, Notre Dame demolished Syracuse in that one. Not much to talk about in that game. Before we get to our first reviews here on this show, want to remind you guys right now, PFF Plus is 40% off with our Black Friday sale right now. You get all the access to the same data, analytics, and grades that we're going to talk about here live on this show, and also the same data that every single NFL team uses and every single FBS team uses as well. You get access to our 2026 NFL mock draft simulator, the best mock draft simulator available, the same one that NFL general managers use to prepare for the 2026 NFL draft. You get access to all of the locked articles that are on PFF.com as well, and of course, the best betting tools on the market to make sure that you make up the money that you spend on a PFF Plus sub and then some as well, because we are being really good right now, the player prop too. I believe they're up over 100 units so far this year. And, of course, the fantasy football tools if you want to get a championship for your fantasy football team as well. So, again, 40% off PFF Plus when you use the promo code Black Friday right now. This deal will not last very long, though, so take advantage of it right now to get 40% off the best subscription in sports. All right, first game we're going to talk about, probably the biggest game I would say of the weekend. Number 7 Oregon beating number 15 USC 42-27 was the final score in that game. Oregon staying alive in the playoff race and most likely, not even most likely, just have to beat Washington next week to get into the playoff. USC is now pretty much eliminated from playoff contention with that loss. Let's get to the highest graded player, starting off with the Oregon Ducks. Highest graded player for Oregon was the quarterback, Dante Moore, with a 90 PFF grade. We'll get to him later on in the show. Mateo Uyunglele, 83.9. The edge rusher, defensive tackle, Bear Alexander, 79 grade. Safety, Dylan Thiedemann, 78.3. Running back, true freshman running back, Jordan Davison, 77.4. And Bryce Betcher, the star center fielder and also star linebacker for Oregon, with a 72.5 grade. Let's go to USC now with their highest grade players. in the loss. Highest grade player for them was a wide receiver Tanook Hines, 79.7. Defensive tackle Jide Abasiri with a 68.1 grade. Another D tackle here in Keyshawn Silver, 67.6. Jacoby Lane, another wide receiver here, 66.4. Marcellus Williams, a corner, 64.1. And Jaden Mayava, the quarterback, 63.2. Dalton, what told the story in this win for Oregon?
I think the more I examined these two teams before when we were previewing it this week, I felt like Oregon had decided advantages in the trenches, right? And there was a lot of injuries that happened, especially on both offensive lines in this game. Isaiah World for Oregon, their left tackle, only played 16 snaps. Yapani Lalulu, their center, only played 12 snaps in this game. But Oregon still dominated the trenches on both sides of the ball. You look at the offensive line grades, the overalls aren't great for either team with playing with multiple backups out there. Oregon 58.5. USC 47.5 on the overall grade there, but the pass protection was a big difference. Oregon 84 pass blocking grade, USC with just a 48. Dante Moore was only pressured 5 times the entire day out of 31 dropbacks. You leave a quarterback that good, that much time in the pocket, he's going to kill you, and he absolutely did. He also had an 86 passing grade versus the blitz. He trusted that offensive line to pick up those blitzes and make throws through it. Then you look on the other side of the defensive line and how Oregon dominated up front. Tatum Tuioti, Mateo Uiagalelei, Bear Alexander, right? Those guys up front, Amari Washington, they combined for a 79 PFF grade. Oregon's defensive line did. USC's defensive line just a 58.8. At the end of the day, look, Jaden Mayava did all he could. The receivers, especially Jacoby Lane, did all he could. But Oregon is better than USC in the trenches. That's why they won this game. It was my biggest concern going into it. It's why eventually when this game got dragged out and Oregon had a 14-point lead and they were just able to kind of stiff-arm USC the rest of the way with the run game and with Dante Moore when he needed to be great, especially when it came to USC blitzing and trying to challenge him and make him work faster, Oregon was better in the trenches. That's why they're the better football team.
Yeah, really, my stat is the same, basically. USC only had 65 rushing yards total in this one. Only 2.4 yards per carry, 0.5 yards before contact per carry, 1.9 yards after contact per carry. And only one explosive run in Dalton. An explosive run is a run of 10 or more yards. That one explosive run was a 12-yard run. That was it. Oregon's run defense was phenomenal in this game. And also, Mekhi Lemon only had 34 receiving yards as well. So really, I would say Oregon did a great job underneath of not allowing a lot of yards after the catch or rushing yards either. Only 2 total broken tackles on the ground for USC in this game. King Miller could just do nothing on the ground in this one. So the defensive line, the linebackers, and even the secondary for Oregon did a great job in run defense. They dominated this game up front, and they put far too much pressure on Jaden Mayava and those receivers to win deep down the field in this game. It felt like the only time USC had any sort of offense was when they were throwing deep shots down the field. Everything else underneath was not working, and all the rushing was not working either for USC. And again, when Jaden Mayava has to carry this offense against an elite Oregon secondary, it just wasn't enough for the Trojans, and just a great job overall by Oregon's run defense and also everyone underneath of not allowing a lot of yards after catch from Mekhi Lemon when he's killed so many teams doing that this year.
And you mentioned the one explosive run, a 12-yard run. That was by Mayava on a read option. Yeah. He had 25 of those 65 rushing yards. Oregon only missed 2 tackles in run defense this entire game. They're one of the best tackling teams in the country, and you mentioned it. They don't give up a ton of explosive plays in the passing game either. Now, this is a very explosive passing offense. USC still scored 27 points despite those difficulties, which against a lot of teams is going to be good enough. But against a team like Oregon that's this dominant in the trenches and this good on offense, especially when Dante Moore is clean, you just don't have enough there. And USC could not make enough stops, especially in the run game on their defensive side, to really keep this game within reach. Once they got down 14, it felt like they were really in trouble, and it just kind of stayed there the rest of the way.
Who do you want to shout out the most in this win for Oregon?
I keep talking trenches, but I'm going to go with this defensive line. There was just so many guys. It wasn't just 1 or 2 guys that played well. You look at Mateo Uiagalelei, 78.9 pass rush grade, 4 pressures and a strip sack. Bear Alexander, excellent in run defense with 4 pressures. Amari Washington, solid in run defense, 3 pressures. Terrence Green, a part-timer with a couple pressures. Tatum Tuioti with 5 stops. I think this is really the most dominant unit on the field in this game was Oregon's defensive line as a unit. Again, it wasn't one individual guy with 12 pressures or anything crazy like that, but they all played solid football across the board, especially against a banged-up USC offensive line. You talk about the run defense, the running backs only having 41 yards in this game. That's a big credit to the defensive line. You talk about Jaden Mayava having to carry this offense. It's because the Oregon defensive line especially dominated down low, and USC had to work around it the entire day.
Yeah, our guy Andrew Harbaugh shouting out Dante Moore in the chat. That's exactly my shout out too. Dante Moore looked like an NFL quarterback in this game, man. He was absolutely preposterous against this USC defense that, yes, was missing their 2 star safeties in Bishop Fitzgerald and Kamari Ramsey, but he made them pay in this one without 2 of his top weapons, too, in DeCorian Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. as well. 89.3 passing grade, 257 yards in this game, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, and 86% adjusted completion rate for Dante Moore. He could not miss, really, in this game. His touchdown throw up the seam to Kenyon Sadiq was preposterous throw, pre-snap read by Dante Moore because USC was kind of showing a 1 high safety look pre-snap. They rotated it into a 2 high shell, and they kind of played a quarters kind of coverage, quarters match coverage against Oregon, and he ripped that ball up the seam to Kenyon Sadiq for a touchdown. What was, I thought, one of his best throws of the entire season. He was absolutely incredible, and right now, Dalton, I'll put it out there right now, I don't know if he will declare. There's a lot of people saying that he might come back to school to Oregon for another year. And if he does, great for Oregon, and they're going to be a national title contender if he does do that. If he does declare right now, I would take him as the number 1 quarterback in this draft over Fernando Mendoza and over Ty Simpson. I just think the upside with a guy like Dante Moore, who's younger than both those guys and has played, I would say, basically just as well as both those guys this year. I just love what I'm watching from Dante Moore right now. A little bit of like C.J. Stroud I see in his game a little bit.
What a job, I think, from Will Stein when you talk about the last year and a half and Dante sitting behind Dylan Gabriel last year and the development that he needed coming over from UCLA, right? And you just see that. You see it in his processing. You see it in his timing. You see it in his willingness to make tight window throws. The throw he made against Iowa to basically win the game, that's a throw that I might call his best of the season. But you mentioned it. It's his eyes and it's his ability to see the field. And the amount, look, Oregon is the best pass blocking team in the country. That means something for a young guy's comfort level, right? We saw this 2 years ago with Bo Nix and how comfortable he looked, again, behind the best pass blocking team in the country. This offensive line gives him a chance to work consistently. He was only pressured 5 times on 31 dropbacks. When you can just stand back there at that point and play 7-on-7 against a team like this that's not really getting after you very much, you have a shot to succeed. It's a big reason they scored 42 points. And Dante, man, the way he's seeing the field, the way he's throwing it, as long as they keep him clean back there, they're going to have a shot to win any game they're playing.
It's really awesome to see kind of his story at Oregon, too, because this is a guy who actually was committed to Oregon for the longest time, and right at National Signing Day, he flipped to UCLA to play immediately. Started as a true freshman at UCLA. Didn't have the best freshman year overall. There's some highs in there, of course, but overall was not a great year. And the maturity from Dante Moore to transfer to Oregon, Dan Lanning said, hey, I told Dante when he transferred here, you're going to have to sit for a year. Like, we have Dylan Gabriel coming in. You're not going to start. And Dante said, you know what? That's fine. I'm going to sit for a year behind Dylan Gabriel. I'm going to learn this offense. I'm going to develop even more. And you're seeing him now as a redshirt sophomore, just what he's doing in this offense. And it's incredible to watch, honestly. I just love the maturity from Dante Moore, where when so many other former 5-star quarterbacks, he was a top 3 recruit overall coming out of high school, would go to UCLA, doesn't work out, and say, okay, I'll go transfer somewhere else and play immediately. Dante said, you know what? I'm going to go to the school I was originally committed to, sit for a year behind a veteran quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, and then take over the year after that and run with it. And he's done just that for Oregon this year. So really cool story to watch Dante Moore right now. I want to answer a quick question in the chat from our guy, Walt Dalton. He said, will Jacoby Lane be in the draft? I do think so. He's probably, I would say, a second-round kind of talent, I would say, right now.
Yeah, he's a day 2 pick. I mean, you talk about the ability to make contested catches, though. I think as a red zone target, he's going to be extremely valuable. He's got awesome hands. I think the separation in the route running could use a little bit of work, but he feels like a guy with his frame and his talent, especially again in contested situations. He's probably a day 2 guy.
And a pretty good ball boy, too, Jacoby Lane.
Well, he certainly puts in the A+, effort.
That was wild, dude.
Hey, footballs are expensive, man. You don't want to lose those things. I'm telling you.
For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, Jaden Mayava threw an interception in the game. I forgot who caught it. But anyways, he brought the ball to the sideline. It was a USC throwing ball, so it was USC's property, whatever. They brought the ball to the sideline, Oregon did. Jacoby Lane ran to the Oregon sideline and started like almost fighting with the Oregon player to get the ball back. It was kind of like, remember the Pitt ball boy too, kind of like fighting with the players to get the ball back?
That whole thing, yeah.
Jacoby Lane did that basically for the ball boy.
Yeah, I mean, credit to him, man. You got to protect the shield, protect the equipment.
Awesome.
Those footballs are not cheap, man. There's these schools, man, they only have so much in the budget. You can't keep buying footballs.
You got a 15-yard penalty for that, but yeah, I think that was really funny when he did that. But yeah, there was a lot of penalties actually in that game too. A lot of personal fouls that we saw in that.
Yeah, it was this
game.
Weekend. You could feel the intensity. It was multiple games like that this weekend where you could really feel the intensity and everything getting kind of ratcheted up. That the next game we're about to talk about too had a lot of them as well. But you can feel now it's this time of year when every single play matters and even the equipment matters.
Yeah.
Don't be stealing the equipment now. I mean, it's just one of those things. But you can feel that with teams and their seasons are on the line and everything comes down to just these moments. You're feeling that intensity right now.
Absolutely. All right, so USC, their playoff hopes are dead with a loss to Oregon. Oregon, all they got to do is beat Washington to make yet another college football playoff. Let's get to the next game right now. Oklahoma keeping their playoff hopes alive with a 17-6 victory over number 22 Missouri. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Oklahoma Sooners. Their highest graded player was linebacker Owen Heineke, 76.3. Eli Bowen, the cornerback, 75.6. Safety Michael Boganowski, 74.1. Kendall Daniels, another safety here, 73.5. Cortland Guillory, the corner, 72.2. And John Mateer with a 55.7 grade in the victory. Let's go over to Missouri with their highest graded players in the loss. Linebacker Nicholas Rodriguez, 80.4. Another linebacker here, Josiah Trotter, 78.9. Keegan Trost, the offensive tackle, 72.5. Dre Norwood, the corner, 72.1. Stephen Hall, another corner, 69.2. And Bo Perbula making his return, but only a 58.6 grade for him in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
To me, look, you only get so many chances against what is an elite Oklahoma defense. You only get so many chances to put points on the board. And when Missouri had their chances, they just didn't capitalize fully, right? 0 for 3 when it comes to scoring touchdowns in the red zone, settling for 2 field goals and 1 missed field goal. And you felt like if Missouri was going to win this game, and this was going to be a low-scoring game. You got 2 really good defenses. You got 2 teams that, in general, want to run the football. Obviously, Oklahoma made enough plays in the passing game to come out with 17 points. Certainly, the 87-yarder from Isaiah Satania was the biggest play. But 0 for 3 in the red zone for Missouri. Also, another drive in the fourth quarter stopped at the Oklahoma 21. So I think when you just look at when they got into Oklahoma territory, they just couldn't finish it off. When they had the ball inside the Oklahoma 40, they had a 51.4 offensive grade as a team with just 2.9 yards per play and a negative .647 EPA per play. Oklahoma just puts up the brick wall in their own red zone. It is so hard to score touchdowns on them. The pass rush is great. The run defense after the first drive, which you're going to talk about, was outstanding. The coverage was great. A couple of interceptions late in the game. I just think you look at Missouri, and they had a few chances. They had chances to go ahead in this game. They had chances to stay in this game, but they didn't take advantage of that. I thought really to the end of the first half when they got the ball down to the Oklahoma 3-yard line and they couldn't punch it in. They settled for a field goal there. That was really a missed opportunity, and then from there, Oklahoma just shut it down in the second half.
Yeah, my stat is Missouri had 48 rushing yards after the first drive of this game, because on the first drive of the game, Missouri drove right down the field, got a field goal. We're like, all right, maybe Missouri's got a shot to win this game. First drive of the game, Missouri had 42 rushing yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and a field goal. Missouri, on the other 12 drives in this game, 48 rushing yards, 2.1 yards per carry, and also only 1 field goal. So a field goal on the first drive of the game and only 1 field goal on the other 12 drives of the game for the Tigers. On the other 12 drives, 0.3 yards before contact per carry, 1.8 yards after contact per carry, 1 explosive run, and 4 tackles for loss for Oklahoma's defense as well. They knew that even though Bo Perbula was back from his injury, but they knew Missouri wanted to win this game. with a guy who's going to be a Doak Walker Award finalist and Ahmad Hardy, one of the best running backs in college football this year, who just ran for 300 yards last week against Mississippi State. Ahmad Hardy would have to carry this team to victory in this one, and they knew that, and they put 7 or more defenders in the box on 21 of Missouri's 31 carries in this game. So great job by Oklahoma's defense, not only of stepping up and stopping the run, but a great job by Brent Venables of knowing exactly what kind of game Missouri wanted to make this and shutting that down and making Bo Prabula beat their really talented secondary, and Missouri just could not do that.
And you could just feel Oklahoma's defense after that first drive. Every successive drive from there, everything just kept creeping up and not just in the boxes, in coverage too. It was, you know what? We can tell you don't want to throw it vertically.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please throw it over our heads. And
Yeah.
honestly, for the most part, Missouri's receivers couldn't get open. Right? There was a couple flashes in the fourth quarter when the game was already 17-6. But I think what you saw there is Oklahoma just said, you know what? We don't have to respect your passing game. We just don't have to. And that's really been the biggest issue for Missouri all year, the quarterback play in the drop back game. When the play action's going and the run game's going great, they're running for 250, 300 yards, then everything's working in sync. But when it comes to just a drop back play action game, especially when they're behind in games, this doesn't work. We saw it with the 2 interceptions against Alabama. We've seen it in other games. Now you see it again here with Oklahoma. If you're going to beat Oklahoma, your quarterback better be on his A-plus game, because you have to be able to threaten them down the field and then work your way into the run game.
Yeah, if Missouri has 90 rushing yards in a game, Missouri's not winning that ball game. I'll tell you that right now. That's not the way they want to win ball games. Who do you want to shout out ultimately in this win for Oklahoma?
I'll go with their highest graded player there, who played at least 25 snaps, a linebacker. I mentioned that linebackers were going to be important in this game for Oklahoma. Owen Heineke was outstanding, a 78.4 run defense grade, 8 total tackles and 2 stops. Also only allowed 2 catches for 8 yards in coverage, and that was a lot of time where Missouri was trying to get underneath and get lateral with the play action. Kip Lewis was solid also with a 68 run defense grade. And look, I mean, they each missed 2 tackles, but when you're talking about tackling Ahmad Hardy, that's actually not bad at all. So the linebackers needed to be great. Heineke and Kip Lewis in this game, they were outstanding in this game, especially after that first drive, like you mentioned.
I'll shout out his coach, man, Brent Venables. Just what a job he's done this year at Oklahoma. They're now 1 win away from Oklahoma's first college football playoff appearance since Jalen Hurts led them to the playoff in 2019 when they lost to LSU, and of course Joe Burrow, who will go on and win the national title that year. And even with all the offensive issues that Oklahoma has and still has right now, only 17 points in this game against Missouri. Even with that, this is a defensive football team. This is a Brent Venables football team right now. Only Ole Miss and Tennessee scored 24 or more points against Oklahoma this year. They have 5 games out of their 11 this year where they've allowed fewer than 10 points in those games. 7 of those 11 games where they've allowed fewer than 20 points, including this one as well. This is just a complete opposite, really, of the Lincoln Riley teams that we had at Oklahoma when he was coaching the Sooners. This is a defensive football team, and honestly, you get into the playoff and you get probably a home game in that playoff game. I don't care how good another opposing offense is, man. This Oklahoma defense is one of the elite units in college football right now. They will drag you into the mud, and if John Mateer in that offense only has to score 17 to 20 points to win a ball game, they probably will be able to do that, man. So they have to finish it off next week against LSU. So it's still a dangerous game. They got to win next week too, but great job at Brent Venables and this team overall this year. And Dalton, there's so many points this year where we looked at each other and said, all right, Oklahoma's done. There's no way they make the playoff now. And they just keep rattling off these wins. They beat Alabama. They beat Missouri this week. Now all they got to do is beat LSU next week, and Oklahoma is going to the playoff for the first time in 6 years.
No, absolutely. I think especially like you mentioned, having to go into Oklahoma for a potential playoff game against this defense, your offense has to be on their A-plus game even to get 24 points off this team, right? You look at some of the other games where they've given up points. Okay, Texas got 23, but that was a slow burn, and 7 of that was on a punt return, right? Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss was outstanding. They put up 34. Okay, Tennessee, 27. Alabama only put up 21, and they got the turnovers. I mean, to me, I kind of watched them the last few weeks, and I keep going, you know what? This right now is what the Pittsburgh Steelers are. This is the college Pittsburgh Steelers right now. So the pass rush is great. They force turnovers. They give you different looks, and they just drag you into their style of ball. And I would expect this game next week against LSU to be the same way, right? Because LSU's a very defensive team, and they only got a 13-10 win over Western Kentucky yesterday. I would expect a similar type score. We'll talk about it later in the week. That's one of the games we're going to preview. But no, you're right. Credit to Brent Venables and what he's done this year. They've only given up 30 points once this year. Yeah. Unbelievable. And that was in one of their 2 losses to Ole Miss.
Yeah, it's incredible what Oklahoma is doing right now in the SEC in their second year in the SEC as well. Just a great job at Brent Venables. And again, one more win, and the Sooners are going to the playoff for the first time in 6 years. All right, next game we're talking about an upset that we had in the ACC. Pittsburgh beating number 16 Georgia Tech 42-28. Georgia Tech, all they had to do was win this game, and they were in the ACC title game. They're not out of it just yet, but Georgia Tech needs a lot of help now to make it to the ACC championship game. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Pittsburgh Panthers. Highest graded player for Pitt was, of course, their true freshman running back, Ja'Kyrian Turner, 82 grade. We'll talk about him later on in the show. Wide receiver Kenny Johnson, 74.6. Linebacker Braylon Lovelace with a huge pick 6 in this game, 73.4. Edge rusher Isaiah Neal, 73.3. Defensive tackle Nick James, 71.8. And Mason Heinschel, another true freshman, with a really good 76.8 grade. Let's go over to Georgia Tech with their highest graded players in the loss. Wide receiver Malik Rutherford, 74.5. Safety Omar Daniels, 73.1. Defensive tackle Jordan Vandenberg, 71.1. Isaiah Canyon, the wide receiver, 70. Defensive tackle Matthew Alexander, 68.1. And Haynes King with a 68.4 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this Pitt victory?
I think the funniest part about the way this game went is that you and I both picked Georgia Tech, and a big reason was Pittsburgh's propensity for turnovers, right, for giveaways.
Yep.
And Georgia Tech, their ability coming into this game, they'd only turned the ball over 10 times the entire year, and 5 of those were in their first 2 games of the season. We figured, okay, Georgia Tech's ball security would be the difference in a win for them, and it ended up being the other way around. This was only the second game of the entire season where Pittsburgh did not give the ball away. The only other game was a 48-7 win over Boston College, the worst team in the ACC. Georgia Tech, 2 interceptions, one from Haynes King in the first quarter, led to a Pitt touchdown. The pick 6, like you mentioned, I think at the end of the day, yes, there's the hot start, but Georgia Tech had momentum in the second half. Yep. It was 28-14. They were driving down. They're inside the Pitt 10, and the Braylon Lovelace pick 6, probably the worst throw of Haynes King's season. That moment felt like that's when the game ended, right there. Because all of a sudden it went from, this could be a 7-point game in one play to now it's 35-14, and it's just over. There was also a turnover on downs early in the game at Pitt's 45 that led to a Pitt touchdown. I think that's just what this game comes down to me. 2 interceptions, 3 total 4th down stops for Pittsburgh on defense. You end up with 5 total turnovers there. That's the difference in the game to me. Pitt was safe with the football, and they rarely are. And we know Mason Heinschel is a gunslinger, but they did not have any turnovers in this game. Georgia Tech did. They were not secure with the football. The pick 6 from Lovelace really put things away from there. And even then, there was a moment where Georgia Tech had a little bit of air. There's a fake punt that I was not a huge fan of at all. I don't really understand that one, but I'll let it go. You came away with the win anyway. But no, that to me, when I look at this game throughout it's turnovers. And again, in the preview, we thought, hey, most likely this would be the other way, but this is why turnovers are kind of the most random thing in the game of football, because they can swing right back the other way and hit that regression to the mean at any time.
That fake punt call by Pat Narduzzi was one of the craziest.
We're sitting in the Cincinnati press box watching Cincy BYU with this on off to the side, and it just stressed me out.
Yeah.
You're up 14. It's 4th and 9. This is just not necessary.
Yeah.
I love that stressed me out.
All
big
the
time.
other beat writers in that press box, like we were all like, "What are you doing?" Like yelling it out, and they were like, it was like during a commercial break, and BYU Cincinnati like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, sorry."
I was like, not a big fan of the fake punt, but you get away with it.
Yeah.
A win is a win in the Ben Lindsay Bowl, that's for sure.
So you are right that Georgia Tech did mount a little bit of a comeback in this game, but they had to because of how dominant Pitt was in the first 5 drives in this one. So my stat to tell a story in this game is the first 5 drives for both teams in this one. Pitt built a 28-0 lead over Georgia Tech early on in the second quarter of this game, and the Yellow Jackets were playing catch-up from there. 4 straight touchdown drives for Pitt in this one. Pitt's first 5 drives of the game, 245 yards, 8.8 yards per play, 14 first downs, 28 points. Georgia Tech's first 5 drives of the game, 21 total yards, 1.2 yards per play, 1 first down, and 0 points. Pitt was absolutely dominant in the first 5 drives of this game, and Georgia Tech needed to mount like a Texas A&M over South Carolina type of comeback, monumental comeback, to even have a chance at winning this game, and they could not do it. The defense could not get stopped in this one, which has been a theme for Georgia Tech really all year, and Haynes King and the offense simply took too long to get going in this game as well. So Pitt, again, a 28-0 lead early on in the second quarter. That, to me, told the story in this game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And for as long as we've been doing this show together, anytime we do a Georgia Tech game, we go, what's the difference? A lot of times, you got out ahead of them.
Yep.
You got out ahead of them because they can't just get in the run game. They got to get an obvious pass, and that's not where they want to live. And I'll say this again. It's not that Haynes King hasn't thrown the ball really well this year. It is just not Georgia Tech's comfort zone. It's not what they wanted. They want to get ahead. They want to milk the clock. They want to put those tight ends on the field and get 5 yards at a time on the ground and really just choke you out. Pitt didn't allow them to do that. You can't get into that kind of game with a 28-0 deficit there. So, credit to Pittsburgh. You're right. Getting off to the hot start. As often teams do, when Georgia Tech does get beat, it is often for that reason, that they're playing from behind, and they don't want to be doing that because the foundation, the heart and soul of their team is still the run game. But their defense, once again, as was the case against NC State, they could not get stops when they needed them. Even when they had one more gasp of air, when it was 35-28, they just could not get the stop that they needed.
You and I both want to shout out a couple true freshmen in Pitt's backfield in this one. You want to shout out the quarterback, Mason Heinschel.
Boy, Pitt's future looks pretty bright there, doesn't it? And, when we had heard that Desmond Reed was officially out for this game, we went, that's going to be a problem. But I'll tell you what, the young guy stepped up. I got to give credit to the quarterback, Mason Heinschel, coming off, obviously, his worst game of the year against Notre Dame. It was just awful. They got whacked, and obviously Pat Narduzzi wasn't worried about it. But I was kind of worried about how Heinschel would respond coming off of that game and now going into your actual biggest game of the year against Georgia Tech that can keep you alive in the ACC race. He was really good. He gutted it out. 69.5 passing grade. That goes up a handful of points because he had one fumble that Pitt managed to recover. But 20-28, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 78 passing grade in a clean pocket. When he is clean, he's really good. He wants to hold the football, right? And he was under pressure 50% of the time in this game. But the biggest thing is that this was his highest graded game of the season, and he did not turn the football over. Again, second time this year for this Pitt team, second time this year for Heinschel. In the biggest moment, he played clean football, and that was the difference in this game.
Yeah, mine is Chadwick Turner, the true freshman running back for Pitt in this one. Stepped up for Desmond Reed, like Dalton said, who was out with an injury, and he was absolutely incredible against this Georgia Tech defense. An 88.6 rushing grade, 200 rushing yards with a touchdown, 121 yards after contact, a 40% forced missed tackle rate for Chadwick Turner with 10 yards per carry and 7 explosive runs against Georgia Tech as well. Also had 12 receiving yards in this one. This guy, Dalton, and you're not a big fan of recruiting rankings, this guy was not even a top 1,500 recruit out of high school. He is a diamond in the rough for Pitt right now. And yes, they have a star running back in Desmond Reed, who will be the star of this offense when he gets back from his injury. But they got a guy in Chadwick Turner who has made plays really all year for Pitt in their backfield, and he is a rising star in college football.
No, absolutely. I mean, you get 2 young guys like this that step up again on the biggest stage in the biggest game of their season, and they're going to have to do it again next week. You got a real tough Miami team that's ranked in, the top 12? They're number 12 right now, I think it is, or number 11?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the stage is only going to get bigger, and that defense is a whole different animal than this Georgia Tech one. But if these two young guys keep stepping up for Pitt, man, you got to feel like they have a chance, especially going back home and getting an opportunity. And then we're going to go over the scenarios later, but Pitt is in the ACC title race.
Oh, they are.
Which puts you in the playoff race. You beat Miami. If they're not ranked this week, they're going to get ranked next week if and when they beat Miami, and then going into the ACC title game if they get there. So this is a big opportunity in front of Pittsburgh, but this was step one on the way to ACC contention.
Yep, Pitt staying alive in ACC contention, while Georgia Tech, like I said before, all they had to do was win this game to get into the ACC title game. Now they need help now because they play an out-of-conference team next week against Georgia. Georgia Tech needs a lot of help in order to get to Charlotte for the ACC championship game. All right, let's get to a few Big 12 games now that we had in Week 13, starting off with the one that we were at. Number 11, BYU taking down Cincinnati 26-14. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the BYU Cougars. Highest graded player, of course, was running back LJ Martin with a career day against Cincinnati. I'll talk about him later on in the show. 83.4 grade. Tavion Beasley, the corner, 79.4. Defensive tackle John Tomepeau with a 77.2 grade. Safety Tanner Wall, 76.6. Falatau Satuala, another safety here, 73. And Bear Bachmeier with a 59.9 grade in the win for the Cougars. Let's go over to Cincinnati with their highest graded players in the loss. Highest graded players, both of them were a pair of safeties. Christian Harrison, 77.6. Antoine Peak Jr., 73. Edge rusher Jalen Hunt, 72.1. Micah Coleman, the edge rusher as well, 70.1. Our guy, the Godfather, Dante Corleone, the defensive tackle, 68.3. And Brendan Sorsby with a 62.4 grade in the loss for Cincy. Cincinnati now officially is out of contention for the Big 12 title game. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Third down. I'm watching this game, and BYU is able to sustain drives, had 38 and a half minutes of time of possession because they were 7 for 14 on third down. Now, they did a nice job putting themselves in good situations, a lot of third and shorts early in the game. They were able to have that two-way go of continuing to run the football either with LJ Martin or with Bear Bachmeier in those third and short situations and convert. Cincinnati just 4 for 13 on third down, 1 for their first 10 on third down going into the fourth quarter, the 10th one there in the fourth quarter. Basically, 1 for 10 on third down. That's a big reason you were down 20-7 in this game when it really mattered the most. And not getting those conversions, I think a big story in this game for Cincinnati. They're going to be kicking themselves 3 missed field goals in this game. That's a big part of it too. So really, third and fourth down execution really hurting Cincinnati in this game. BYU was able to sustain drives, sustain time of possession, stay on the run game, keep themselves in good situations. And honestly, I think more impressive than anything for BYU as a whole team, just the sheer grit and physicality they came out and played with, right? This was not a game where, like the Iowa State game or the TCU game, where it was going to look flashy and Bear Bachmeier was going to get high flying. Cincinnati's defense is very, very good. Cincinnati as a team, look, this is a good football team with just 1 or 2 flaws that really take them out of contention here, but BYU had to go into a loud environment and play physical football. It's relatively cold outside. They didn't mind it at all. They've been playing this type of physical football all year. This is first the foundation, the identity of their team. Then they worked to Bachmeier in the passing game. But this was a gritty, physical win from this Cougars team. You got to give them a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. I'm going to shout out the run defense right here for BYU. Only 89 rushing yards for Cincinnati in this game. And I mentioned in the preview how Cincinnati is going to want to rely on their run game, which has been basically a top 10 run game in college football all season long against what has been overall a pretty average BYU run defense all season long, because BYU plays man coverage at a very, very high rate. And in all 3 of Cincy's losses this year against Nebraska, Arizona, and Utah, they play a lot of man coverage and they completely lock down those receivers, and Cincinnati could not do anything else in the passing game at least. BYU did a good job of man coverage of this game as well. The difference is as well, though, Cincinnati could not get anything going on the ground. 89 total rushing yards, 48 yards after contact, and only 4 broken tackles for Cincy's run game, and only 54 designed rushing yards for the Bearcats in this one, because Sorsby had 35 yards on scrambles in this one as well. And also, BYU had light boxes, meaning 6 or fewer defenders in the box, on 13 of Cincinnati's 22 rushing attempts in this game. So it's not like the Cougars just stacked the box in Cincinnati and that's how they stopped the run game. No, they played with their normal defense and they still shut down this run game for Cincinnati. Everybody at all three levels, the defensive line, the linebackers, and the secondary, they all brought their hard hats this week in run defense. Outstanding job by BYU, because if Cincinnati was going to win this game, it was going to be because of the run game, and BYU did not allow that to happen.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, look, only 54 design rushing yards, like you mentioned, and 28 of those 54 came on the only explosive run of the day for Cincy's running backs from Evan Pryor, a 28-yard carry there. So you think about that. Usually it's so often Sorsby and Pryor and Tawi Walker controlling the pace of the game and getting behind a really good offensive line, but you mentioned it, BYU at all three levels was committed to stopping the run in this game. And honestly, look, Sorsby, the surface level stats tell you he was okay. The grading tells you he was just okay. The 62.9, that's not enough to carry you through against a defense like this. BYU committed to stopping the run. They dared Cincinnati to beat them with Sorsby's arm. That was not going to happen, especially, again, on third down for the majority of the game. When Cincinnati's in obvious passing situations too much, they're just not going to win. We've seen this enough times against Nebraska, against BYU, against Arizona. There's just too often where their receivers can't get the job done, and Sorsby, too many tight window throws you're asking him to make, especially against good secondaries. To me, in their 4 losses, the common thread is that you're playing against a good secondary. Can you beat it? No.
Yeah.
And that's just what Cincinnati is this year. So, look, they're a solid football team. They can run the ball well. They've got a good defense. But at the end of the day, their passing game was not good enough to beat the better secondaries on their schedule.
And like I said, all 4 of those secondaries play a lot of man coverage, too. Sorsby's been great against zone coverage this year, but they just can't separate and win against man coverage. And, Dalton, you want to shout out even more that BYU secondary.
I mean, just all the way around, what a unit they have. I mean, we've talked about Satuala and Wall, especially at safety all year. Evan Johnson at corners, outstanding. And you mentioned it. You're talking about run defense. Their 2 highest graded run defenders in this game were Satuala and Evan Johnson, right? Tanner Wall with the interception. I mean, you've just got everybody contributing, but I think this secondary has been so good all year in just holding down opponents on the back end. You mentioned a lot of man-to-man coverage. It's not an easy assignment, and they don't have I think the other funny thing to me, too, is they don't have a dynamic pass rush by any means, and yet this secondary continues to get it done. They're so fundamentally sound. They ball hawk when they need to, and it feels like, maybe I got to look at it, but it feels like every single big game, at least one of these 2 safeties has an interception, right? Whether it's Tanner Wall or Satuala. I mean, they've just been outstanding all year, and I thought another great game from them, both in coverage and in run defense.
Yeah, the middle of BYU's defense, whether it be D tackles, linebackers, or the safeties, I mean, it's just incredible what they're doing this year. And those safeties for BYU and Satuala and Tanner Wall, they have been stars for the Cougars all season long. I, of course, have to shout out LJ Martin in this one. With what an incredible game for him against Cincinnati. 222 rushing yards, a career high for the sophomore, with 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. 119 yards after contact, 9 broken tackles, 6.9 yards per carry, 6 explosive runs. And Cincinnati entered this game with a top 35 run defense grade in college football. The Bearcats have no pass rush. They are really good at stopping the run, like Dante Corleone, who's one of the better run defenders that we have in college football. But LJ Martin ran wild on Cincinnati in this one. He's a physical running back. He's a rising superstar right now in college football. He is only a true sophomore. He's already one of the best running backs in college football. And I'll tell you right now, he's probably going to be, for me at least, going into next year, maybe a top 5 running back in the country.
Oh, he should be. I mean, you talk about the offensive line and the work they're doing. They're a lot better than they were last year. This offensive line's been outstanding, run blocking for Martin all year. Martin has been terrific. He's really the engine of this offense, right? Bachmeier is the true freshman quarterback and maybe a top 10 quarterback heading into your rankings. We'll think of it. We got a long way to go before the summer and figuring those things out. But you talk about really what the engine of this offense is. It's LJ Martin first and foremost, right? And he was in this game, and really there was moments where Bachmeier had to play well and he had to just make the occasional play to keep the chains moving, right? But this game was really about the physicality of BYU on both sides of the ball. Offensively, that's LJ Martin. I mean, the yards after contact that he gets, he's so strong. He's a straight-ahead runner. He probably reminds people a lot of a former BYU running back, Tyler Algier, in the same role that he played. Even when you had Zach Wilson and all those high-flying weapons, Algier was the engine of that offense. LJ Martin does the same thing for this team, and the physicality in the run game of him and Bachmeier really really made a huge difference in this game.
And we were lucky enough to get on the sidelines before Dalton, and just like the size of these BYU players, like even Bear Bachmeier,
all of them,
he is a massive quarterback.
They are a physical,
LJ Martin looks massive.
football team. Yep,
they are a physical football team. Speaking of us being on the sidelines, I want to shout out the BYU faithful as well in this one. We felt the love from you guys when we were at this BYU Cincinnati game. We had Keanu Tanavasa's dad came up to us and talked to us for a little bit, which was really, really cool. Many BYU fans in the stands said hi to us too, which is really awesome as well. Many who worked for BYU came up and said hi to Dalton and I. Brett Pine and Robbie Bullis said hi to us as well. Again, it meant the world to us to really feel the love from you guys in the BYU faithful. And not to mention that, Dalton, not only were we shouting them out because they were showing us love, they showed out.
Oh, there was a ton of them.
That was incredible how many BYU fans were there.
Yeah, they filled darn near the whole roadside of the stadium.
It was 1,600 miles away.
It's a cross-country game. This isn't like, the Utah game and they went right down the road. This is like, it's going from Provo to Cincinnati. That's a long way. There was a ton of BYU fans there. I mean, we've been to a couple of Cincinnati games now, and that's as good a road showing as I've seen from any team this year. It's unbelievable.
We were in the press box before the game, and we saw the tailgate for BYU off in the distance, and it was a massive tailgate. I was like, dude, it's one of the best fan bases, honestly, in college football. So shout out to you guys. Really appreciate you guys watching the show and saying hi to us last night at the game. It was really cool for us to interact with you guys like that. We have to make it to Provo at some point.
We got to figure it out. Maybe if because they get a Friday night game every year, so maybe
that's probably the only way we do it. That'd be a quick turnaround for us.
It's an early Sunday show. It'd be tough
in Cincinnati, yeah.
Unless we do it live.
But hey, they made it out to Cincinnati, so we should make it out to Provo.
Live Sunday show from Provo.
That would kind of rock, yeah. That would kind of rule.
We'll figure that one day. We'll figure out.
We got to make it out there
next season.
But shout out to BYU faithful. You guys have been one of our best fan bases, really, since we started doing the show, and you guys showed the love yesterday, and we really, really appreciate that. So shout out to you guys for the big win over Cincinnati, and we'll keep covering BYU as long as they keep winning right now, which is what they're doing under Kalani Sitake. So next game that we got in the Big 12, we got TCU beating number 23 Houston 21-14, and Houston officially is out of contention for the Big 12 title game in a couple weeks. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the TCU Horned Frogs. Highest graded player is their linebacker, Nnamdi Obiazor, with an 82.6 grade. Running back, Jeremy Payne, 81 grade. Another linebacker here, and Caleb Elarms-Orr, 78.2. Wide receiver, Joseph Manjack IV, 77.1. Offensive tackle, Carson Bruno, 72. And Josh Hoover, the quarterback, with a 68.4 grade. Let's go over to Houston with their highest graded players in the loss. Cornerback Will James with an incredible 91.8 grade. Edge rusher Eddie Walls III, 79.3. Rook Brown, the corner, 74.7. Wide receiver Amari Thomas, 67.7. Defensive tackle Carlos Allen Jr., 66.8. And Connor Wigman, the quarterback, 67.2 grade. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Boy, Houston's just got to be kicking themselves. Their defense played plenty well enough to win this game. You look at Will James, 2 interceptions and a forced fumble. It's just unbelievable stuff from him. And Houston only gave up 3 points after the first quarter of this game. And those 3 points were actually a result of a big punt return from Jordan Dwyer that set up TCU in really good field position. So their defense after the first quarter was lights out. But you look at think about all of these missed opportunities here for Houston. Okay, number 1, 4 for 17 on third down. Not going to get it done. Only scored twice on 5 TCU turnovers. Okay, Josh Hoover was turning the ball over, especially in the second quarter of this game. Couldn't take advantage. They drive down to the TCU 1-yard line. Connor Wigman throws an interception in the end zone. Strange sequence where after the Will James forced fumble very late in the second quarter, 48 seconds to go, 2 timeouts. Yes, the ball's inside your own 20-yard line. And Willie Fritz opts to take a couple of knees to go into the half instead of staying aggressive and trying to maybe attack on some points at the end of the first half. Then you have a couple of opportunities to tie this game. 2 missed field goals in the fourth quarter. It just felt like at every turn that Houston could have turned this game in their favor. And credit TCU's defense for standing up when it mattered most. For sure, they were really good in run defense. We're going to get into that in a second. But Houston had a million opportunities. And they fell behind early. They were behind early, but they had a million opportunities to take advantage of TCU mistakes, or they were moving the ball and they just couldn't finish drives. I think they're going to look in the mirror more so than anything that TCU did to them and go, man, we really blew a lot of opportunities in this game. I mean, you just again, a missed one at the 1-yard line, not staying aggressive at the end of the first half, 2 missed field goals, TCU officially 4 turnovers, and then you had the turnover on downs at the end. They got the stop that they needed, right? TCU going for it on 4th and 1, going for the kill, and Houston got that stop. So to me, this one really not at all on Houston's defense. They just offensively did not take advantage of any of the prime opportunities that they had to take advantage of this game.
Yeah, by the way, I misspoke earlier. 17-14 final score, not 21-14 TCU. And you're right, Dalton. And I want to shout out the TCU defense in this one. So really, I went into the preview talking about Connor Wigman. He's the lowest graded quarterback out of over 150 quarterbacks in the country, lowest graded one in the nation against the blitz. And TCU blitzes at a top 15 rate in college football. I thought that would be the biggest issue for Houston in this game. Turns out it was the complete opposite. TCU barely blitzed Connor Wigman in this game, and he struggled when he was not blitzed in this one because he had a 44.3 passing grade when he was not blitzed in this game. When he was not blitzed, 8 for 20 for 92 yards and 1 interception with only a 58% adjusted completion rate. They sat back in coverage far more than I expected TCU to do so in this game. They only blitzed Wigman on 10 of his 34 dropbacks, and it worked, honestly. So Dalton, it almost felt like Houston prepared all week for TCU's blitzes. So when they didn't blitz ultimately, it felt like they were not prepared at all for that. And Wigman, again, was complete opposite of what I previewed in the show. So I apologize to Houston if they watched the show and said, okay, we got to prepare for that. I led you guys astray, obviously, in this one, because my stat that told the story was Connor Wigman and how bad he was when he was not blitzed in this game. I believe he had like an 80 passing grade when he was blitzed and only a 44 passing grade when he was not blitzed in this one.
There are certain times with a quarterback that likes to do 2 things. Number 1, get rid of the ball quickly and get it to his first read, or take off and scramble. What you can do then, the idea of what you're talking about, on top of just breaking the tendency and making Houston change what they wanted to do on offense, was make Connor Wigman hold the football.
Yeah.
Make him stand there and hold it. Fine, go ahead. Get to your 2nd and 3rd read. Challenge those tight windows. This has been the problem for Wigman all year. Now, has he had good games? Absolutely, but only 2 games this year with a passing grade above 65 max.
Yeah.
And generally what you see with Wigman, along with their pass protection, which is suspect, against this offensive line, you don't really have to blitz. You can if you want to, but you don't really have to win that battle. And the funny part is TCU didn't get a single sack in this game. They said, we're going to sit back and make him hold the football. We're going to make him beat us. And they felt like he couldn't do it. And you know what? They ended up being right. Only 15 to 29 overall. And like you mentioned, struggled against standard coverages because there was just nowhere to go. Only completed 1 deep ball on the day, and that was actually to Dean Connors. So they really weren't completing anything on the outside that was going to hurt TCU. He obviously did some good things scrambling. He was their leading rusher in this game. Wigman's been running well all year, but I kind of like it. I like the tendency break there of TCU going, you know what? Stand there and throw the football.
Yeah.
We don't think you can do it. And Tanner Koziol only had 2 catches in this game. Amari Thomas didn't take over like he's done in a couple of games in the past. And the other problem for Houston was they were in too long of situations. I'm going to get into the run defense right now. My most impressive, those 2 linebackers that you mentioned, Nnamdi Obiazor and Caleb Elarm-Zor, they were outstanding. Elarm-Zor, how about 16 tackles, 9 stops, and a 91 run defense grade, 9 positive grades in run defense in this game. Obiazor, 8 tackles, 3 stops, only allowed 2 catches also for 10 yards in coverage. He had an 81 run defense grade himself. You could feel from the very beginning of this game, those 2 linebackers in total control of everything in front of them. Dean Connors, 12 carries for 75 yards sounds great, right? That sounds pretty darn good. That's over 6 yards a carry. 54 of those yards were on 1 carry in the second quarter. They actually came on a 3rd and 8 that TCU just never saw coming. They didn't think they were going to run the ball. Other than that, 11 carries, 21 yards. That's a win. You hold Dean Connors to just 1 big run the entire game, and you make Wigman beat you. I think that was the entire point of this whole game plan from TCU. We're going to make Connor Wigman stand there and beat us from the pocket with his arm. Couldn't get it done, and then even in the moments when he did get it done, they missed 2 field goals in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Just could not come through and execute when it mattered most, Houston. And you mentioned it, the inconsistency of their passing game, which really has been there all year. despite all the success they've had. But if you hold this team down running the football by design with Connors especially, you got a good shot to shut them down on offense.
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't a great day for TCU's offense in this one, but I still want to shout out the true sophomore running back for them in Jeremy Payne with an 83 rushing grade, 18 carries for 103 yards with 82 yards after contact, 5 broken tackles for a 28% broken tackle rate, also had a 15-yard catch in this one too. Wasn't a great day overall for Josh Hoover and the TCU receivers, but Jeremy Payne kept them on schedule in this game. And in a defensive slugfest like this, your running back having a day like that led TCU to ultimately winning this game against Houston.
A couple other guys to shout out here. Jordan Dwyer with 2 huge plays. One, the touchdown in the middle of the end zone on just a spectacular throw from Josh Hoover. Also, the big punt return to set up TCU with good field position for the game-winning field goal. And then how about a Joe Manjack revenge game? 8 catches, 73 yards, and an 82 receiving grade. Good stuff, as always, from the TCU receivers. All 3 of them, those 2, and Eric McAllister. McAllister with a touchdown early also. Those guys are really good against a really good Houston secondary in this game. But no, this is a big result. Again, you talk about the Big 12 race, and that's kind of what we're in the heart of right now. They're out of it, but it's been a really darn good season for them. They've exceeded Houston has still exceeded every expectation we've had of them, and obviously just come up a little bit short. But this is a football team that's learning how to win. The defense is outstanding, and Willie Fritz should get a lot of credit for the progress he's made with his team in year 2.
I mean, back-to-back 4-8 years for Houston in 2023 and 2024. Now an 8-3 record overall this year. So, yeah, absolutely. A great year. They've doubled their win total from the past 2 years. So, yeah, great job by Willie Fritz. And how about this, Dalton? Houston bringing in the number 2 quarterback in America in high school football, Keyshawn Henderson from the city of Houston as well. He's the number 4 overall player in the class going to Houston next year.
And I'll be honest with you. I mean, you look, they're playing Baylor next week. All right, that's still something to get yourself to 9 wins, and then you get a bowl game. I mean, if you would have told me Houston even had a shot at a 10-win season this year, I would have called you crazy. Really, yeah. This is one of the biggest surprises in college football. The number of games this team has won, and Willie Fritz, you mentioned it, doing an unbelievable job in recruiting. And now on the field with the games that he's winning, this team might be here to stay. And you know they're willing to spend the resources too.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Willie Fritz. He was an incredible coach at Tulane, obviously in 2022 and 2023. Took over Houston, went 4-8 in his first year, but he has them rolling right now. And yes, it was a tough loss against TCU in this one, and Houston is now out of Big 12 contention. But like Dalton said, none of us thought Houston would be in Big 12 contention with only a couple weeks left to go in the season. So a lot of great things happening with that Houston program right now. And like I said, Keyshawn Henderson getting into that program next year too. One of the highest rated recruits that Houston's ever brought in, maybe the highest rated recruit of all time. Honestly, him and Ed Oliver might be the 2 highest for them, but that's the future looks bright for Willie Fritz in that Houston program right now. But they and Cincinnati are now officially out of Big 12 contention after both losing this weekend, and a big win for TCU as well. All right, the final game we're going to review in this show, and also the final Big 12 game we're going to talk about. Number 12 Utah surviving Kansas State would turn into a shootout. 51-47 was the final score in this game. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Utah Utes. Highest graded player for them was their linebacker, Jonathan Hall, 80.9. Blake Cotton, the corner, 76.8. Teo Johnson, the safety, 72.4. Creed Whitmore, the wide receiver, 71.7. Edge rusher Logan Fano, 70.5. And Devin Dampier, 73.3 at quarterback. Let's go over to Kansas State with their highest graded players in the loss. Running back Joe Jackson, talk about him in a little bit, 82.1 grade. Tight end Garrett Oakley, 75.1. Chidi Obiizor, 74.7 at edge rusher. Cornerback is Ashawn Rich, 72.7. Also at 72.7 is their defensive tackle, Damian Ilaio, 72.7. And then Avery Johnson, 64.2 at quarterback. Dalton, what's the story of this game?
I didn't even watching this live, and then even going back through, I don't even know where to start with this. And I think the lesson here is you just play all 60 minutes and see where it goes, especially if you're the team playing from behind all day in Utah. And I think it really is just about the final 8 minutes and how this went right. Devin Dampier fumbles about exactly halfway through the fourth quarter here, about 7:33 to go, and Kansas State scores a touchdown off of it on a short field, goes up 14-0. 47-35. At that point, Max, we're looking at this game going, oh, not great, right? Not great. This might actually be the end of Utah's season here. And then all of a sudden, and I think the hidden biggest play in this game, this is what Kansas State's going for 2. It makes sense. You want to go up 14. Smith Snowden tips a ball, gets a crazy bounce to Teo Johnson, and Teo Johnson houses it 105 yards to steal 2 points back, which is big because you go from you're at 12, could be down 14, now you're only down 10. That's a whole different ball game here, right? So, okay, that's a 2-point play where, Utah's going, all right, let's make a couple stops. Let's get ourselves a pulse here. Then they make a stop. Utah scores a touchdown. Their final 2 drives, Kansas State's final 2 drives, a 3-and-out and an Avery Johnson interception to end the game. Max, that was the only time the entire game where Utah made consecutive stops.
Yeah.
Kyle Whittingham just kept his team in the phone booth, man. He was just like, listen, we're just going to keep making plays, and if we play all 60 minutes, we can find our way to this. This was the ultimate, after going back and watching it, the whole thing again. This was the ultimate, just finding this. You want to talk about survive and advance? This was the definition of survive and advance. But Utah scoring the last 16 points of this game, again, down 47-37. I mean, you just talk about, or sorry, I should say 47-35 before that 2-pointer. This was a sheer willpower win. This was unbelievable. Again, I think the Teo Johnson 2-point conversion that he returned for 2 points for Utah, really the biggest play in the game here, and just that's really all I can say with this one is that the numbers and everything we get some wild numbers out of this game that you're about to go over on one side of it, certainly, but this for Utah was just, you want to find a way to keep your season alive. They went ahead and did it. And then I'll tell you what, too, that the interception, did you go back again and watch the Lander Barton interception at the end?
No, I did not.
Holy smokes. The range and the awareness he basically turns his head around to find a crosser well behind him with Avery Johnson rolling to his left, and then just keeps going. And Johnson never saw him. Like, we were watching it live on obviously on the TV cut when we were in the Cincy press box. And
I saw it live. I didn't watch the all 22.
We were like, what he threw it right. That was a perfect pass to Lander, but he never saw him. And Barton, the awareness to roll with Johnson and be aware of where Johnson was trying to go to the crosser behind him, it was an unbelievable play. So Utah just made the plays when they absolutely had to in the last 8 minutes of this game. And credit to Kyle Whittingham for just keeping his team just calm through it all and just listen, continue to make the next play.
That's why he put Lander Barton in offense, who's used to catching footballs.
It's easy now. He plays tight. I mean, everybody plays offense. It's like a high school team where everybody just plays both ways. Smith Snowden, like I mentioned, we've seen him at receiver. I mean, they just got a bunch of athletes out there, man. So it's crazy.
I'm going to combine my stat and most impressive in the same because it kind of goes into it. The stat is there were 786 combined rushing yards in this game by both teams. That is stupid. Almost 800 rushing yards in this game combined. Kansas State had 475 rushing yards in this game. 12.2 yards per carry, 5 yards before contact per carry, and 7 yards after contact per carry. Kansas State had 10 explosive runs that gained 394 yards on those 10 runs alone for the Wildcats in this one. Utah, 311 yards, 6.6 yards per carry, 11 explosive runs for the Utes as well. And it wasn't even like both teams forced a lot of missed tackles or the offensive lines kicked ass in the run game either. Dalton, just a lot of horrendous run fits by both defenses really in this game. Neither quarterback was really great in this one, but they did not need to be with their ground games. And yes, I know Kansas State ultimately lost this game, but I have to shout out Joe Jackson in this one. 24 carries for 293 yards and 3 touchdowns for him, 195 yards after contact. He had almost 200 yards after contact with only 3 broken tackles. That's crazy for Joe Jackson. 5 explosive runs, 12.2 yards per carry, 8.1 yards after contact per carry. Kansas State really has not had production from their running backs all season long, but they got it from Joe Jackson in this one, and he was the biggest reason why Kansas State almost pulled off this upset over Utah.
Did I not hear that's a school record?
I believe it
and
was.
They've had a lot of darn good backs go through that school.
Just
at
last
Kansas.
year, yeah.
Every year it seems
true.
like. I mean, you talk about setting a school record for rushing. Credit to Joe Jackson. And look, coming into the year, it wasn't supposed to be Jackson that was the workhorse, right? It was supposed to be Dylan Edwards, and he's suffered injuries and again tried to get through that all year. But Jackson with a huge game. This was the best that we've seen Kansas State's run game look all year. It was a frustrating part of watching them all season was where'd the run game go? What happened to it, right? And then on the other side, man, I want to shout out both quarterbacks for Utah. And I think it's a humbling thing for Devin Dampier for, the coaching staff to go, hey, we want to put Bird Ficklin to back up the freshman in some of these packages. Obviously, he was really good in the Colorado game when he got his one start, but they've continued to use him as a weapon. Let's start with Dampier, though. 13 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Did lose a fumble that could have cost him in the fourth quarter, but other than that, he really good on the ground. Also, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 big-time throws as a passer. Had some misses. At times, it was frustrating. Made a couple of huge throws to Larry Simmons in the fourth quarter of this game as they were trying to mount this comeback, and then the big, 50-yard or so run that set up the winning touchdown eventually. And then Max Bird Ficklin, they just keep putting him in there. He is a dangerous weapon on the ground. 7 carries, 54 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 missed tackles. I'm going to show you something because they've been using Ficklin the last few weeks as just even a complimentary weapon when they want to maybe get Dampier a blow or just put Ficklin in there because he's a little bit bigger than Dampier and he can break tackles too. I'm going to give you the list of qualified players, okay, that right now, Bird Ficklin's got a 91 rushing grade for the season. I'm going to give you the list of players ahead of him. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame. Caleb Hawkins, North Texas. Taylon Green is the only quarterback with a higher rushing grade than Bird Ficklin, okay? Jordan Davison and Noah Whittington from Oregon. That tells you a lot about them. Ahmad Hardy, Missouri, Doak Walker finalist, and Kewan Brown from Louisville. That's the list of players with a better rushing grade than Bird Ficklin. This year, try this, 58 carries for 499 yards, 8.6 per, 10 touchdowns, 18 explosive runs on 58 carries.
That's crazy.
If you had like 10 or 11 explosive runs on 58 carries, that's like elite stuff. He's got 18. It's just another weapon. The number of rushing weapons. Wayshawn Parker was really good again too. Every week I watch this Utah offense, and I don't even know how to defend this.
Yeah.
Because they break all of the rules. Like we've talked before about what linebackers have to do to defend the run and the things they have to look at and see from the offense. They break all the rules. They make you – I don't even know what to do with this offense when it gets really rolling. And now you've got 2 different quarterbacks who are both elite runners, plus Parker, plus Nakari Rogers, plus whoever else they want to throw at you.
Plus Spencer Fano and that offensive line still kicking ass.
Plus, you remember Nate Johnson?
Yep.
He's listed as a receiver now, but he'll get in the backfield, and he's like, oh, yeah, I used to play quarterback too. It's just Jason Beck is a madman. It is just silly. The 6 offensive linemen, you mentioned the defensive players playing offense, and they needed every bit of all of this production to win this game because their defense was obviously not great in this game outside of a couple of plays, but I don't even know how you defend this at this point. Yeah. And even we'll see whether or not they get in the college football playoff or not. But if they do, some team's going to be really irritated that they have to play this Utah team if they get that far.
They have so many rushing threats that they have. The scheme is phenomenal for Utah. And then also you have 2 guys that are probably going to be first-round picks at offensive tackle, and Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano as well blocking for them. It's just incredible. So, yeah, both run games. By the way, Joe Jackson did break Darren Sproles' record for most rushing yards in a game. Pretty good player to break a record from.
You ain't lying.
Yeah.
Man, oh, man. Sproles and
Deuce Vaughn,
Giddens and Vaughn, and all the guys that they've had through that, and you break a program record like that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, what an incredible game that we watched between Utah and Kansas State, but Utah staying alive in the Big 12 race with a win over Kansas State. All right, so that wraps up our reviews for the games. After we talk about the sponsor of the show, we're going to get into the scenarios for every single of the Power 4 conferences going into the final weekend of the year because it is still wide open in every conference right now. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of the show. That is Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if we've made the right choice for our kids' future. But here's a simple choice that you can make today that can have a meaningful impact on your kids' future. That's opening a UGMA Kids investment account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf now and gives their investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees and just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services are provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right. Like I said at the top of the show, no team in the Power Four has clinched a trip to their conference title game in a couple weeks. So what we're going to do right now is go over all 4 Power Four conferences and map out to the best of our ability what needs to happen for every team to make it in to conference title weekend. Let's start off, Dalton, with the SEC. We have a couple teams in Texas A&M and Alabama. For A&M, all they got to do is beat Texas, and they're in. If they lose to Texas this weekend, they could still make it to Atlanta with an Alabama loss and an Ole Miss loss, because that would send Texas A&M and Georgia to the conference title game. For Alabama, the only scenario for Alabama, win. Beat Auburn, you're going to Atlanta. If you lose, you're out. Georgia, because Georgia plays Georgia Tech this weekend, it's not a conference game. The only way the Bulldogs can make it to Atlanta is if Texas A&M loses or if Alabama loses. For Ole Miss, they have to win the Egg Bowl this week, which has a lot of stakes in many ways for the Rebels this weekend. Win that game on Friday. Texas A&M also to lose on Friday, and Alabama to lose on Friday as well. What stands out to you in that SEC scenarios right there?
I mean, I think you have the obvious here of Alabama and Texas A&M being in the driver's seat. And at least in all of these scenarios that we have, there are 2 teams that are in the driver's seat and just need to win a ball game, right? That's the case here. Alabama, look, the Iron Bowl is always weird, especially at Auburn. And all of a sudden, which quarterback is Auburn playing now? Because the way Deuce Knight, I know it's Mercer, it's a whole different, but Deuce Knight kind of tore it up yesterday. And the one thing I'll say, no matter if it's Deuce Knight or if they go back to Ashton Daniels, because they could do that with him still keeping his red shirt and playing, but I'm sure we're going to talk about it again in the preview. We know how Alabama struggles with these mobile quarterbacks. And Deuce Knight looked awfully mobile to me yesterday against Mercer. What is it, 5 total touchdowns he had in that game? I mean, he looked pretty good in that. So I think the Iron Bowl is always one of those things where you just go, well, just get on the field and play it and see what happens. And Alabama, here's the thing. Ran the ball well yesterday. We know that's a hot topic. But this Auburn run defense, too, is a problem. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Alabama gets one-dimensional. Get in the Iron Bowl. Things get a little weird, right? They barely won the Iron Bowl last year, right? I mean, I think that's the fun one. And then A&M, look, you talk about, just win the game and get it. They got to go to Austin.
Yeah.
You see the game Arch Manning had yesterday, too, against I know it's Arkansas. It's a different animal. But
still a great Texas defense, too, yeah.
I mean, you're Marcel Reed, I'm going to tell you something. You can't have the first half you had against South Carolina because you won't come back on this Texas team. No, there's some tough tasks. And then I think even Georgia, I mean, Ole Miss has the drama, too. Georgia even is still a story in all of this with regard to the playoff because still have to play Georgia Tech. Yep. That game went to, 5 or 6 overtimes last year it was?
I believe so, yeah. Even more than that.
That's still if Georgia, this is still a big game for them. If they want to buy, talk about you want to buy, you want to win the SEC, all of that stuff. And if Alabama, I mean, it'd be weird if Alabama then won the SEC And Georgia might end up being the team in the top 4 anyway, but they need to win this game if they want a bye week through the first round of the playoff as well.
8 overtimes, by the way.
Oh, it's 8. Sorry,
yeah.
I lose track with
that
all
was
the,
a wild
I lose
game
track with all the
last year.
2-point conversion. 8 overtimes, man. What a ball game that was. And then Ole Miss, boy, as big as the game is, and it's huge because you lock in a playoff spot.
Well, that day after the game.
But that Saturday is illuminating. What a weird Saturday that is. Let's just because I mean you have the A&M game that's going to happen later Friday. Ole Miss is playing at noon. Texas and A&M I believe are playing at 3:30. Actually, and the Georgia game is later on too, but that doesn't matter to them. And then you have they're waiting on Alabama's result potentially Saturday, and they're waiting on whatever Lane Kiffin's going to say about that whole situation. And then what I don't even want to get into any potential drama with the rankings if Kiffin were to leave or what I just can't with that right now.
I don't even want to talk about that. You can't Jordan Travis Ole Miss like that.
No. To be honest with you, if they're going to do it, which is nonsense, and he were to leave on Saturday, okay, you still have to give this team a home game.
Yeah.
Then fine. You want to do it? Make them number 8.
Yeah.
Do not drop them below number 8. They have earned a home game.
Yep.
Do not. That would make me absolutely sick if he were to leave and they said, "Nah, go on the road." Yeah. I don't even know what I would say about it next Sunday. I'll be honest with you. That's just something that should not happen. This team has earned it, but Egg Bowl is one of those weird ones too.
If they lose the Egg Bowl,
well, to be honest with you, if they lose the Egg Bowl, there's a chance they're out on merit. They're going to be in that 10.
They beat Oklahoma. They beat 10-2.
They did, but they're going to be in, and that's going to be another problem for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That I would almost say is actually, at that point, they almost want Ole Miss to just go ahead and win. I don't even the 10-2 scenario. There's going to be 1 or 2 teams.
I just could see the committee being like, "Oh, they're 10-2. They're reeling with Lane leaving. They're out." I'm like, dude, you can't do that.
Well, but you can't put them ahead. You can't put them behind Oklahoma.
So I agree. I agree with that. Or at least I think that. The whole Lane Kiffin factor might play a part. I don't know. But anyways,
I don't know.
We'll get to that next
week.
Lane,
Lane, just come back to FAU. It was peaceful, man. Just come back to Everything was peaceful down there. We were winning 10 games. We never had all this drama at FAU with them. Just come on back someday.
Just to recap, Black Friday is massive for the SEC this week. A&M and Alabama both control their own destiny. But Georgia needs A&M or Alabama to lose. Ole Miss needs A&M and Alabama to lose, plus a win over Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. All right, let's get to the Big Ten now and what the scenarios for that one. Indiana, win and you're in. Beat Purdue and you're in the Big Ten title game. Or if somehow the Boilermakers pull off maybe the biggest upset of the year, Indiana still makes it in as long as Ohio State beats Michigan. That's it. They need Ohio State to beat Michigan, or they got to win against Purdue. For Ohio State, all you got to do, beat Michigan, and you're going to Indy. If not, though, you do need Indiana to lose and also Oregon to lose to Purdue. Oregon, you need to win against Washington, and you need Ohio State to lose to Michigan. Michigan, you need to win, and you need Oregon to lose or Indiana to lose. And Dalton, there's actually a crazy scenario I was looking at earlier. There is a world where we get Ohio State and Michigan in Indy for the Big Ten title game. That would require complete chaos. That would require Indiana to lose, obviously Michigan to win, and also Oregon to lose as well. But there is a world where we get Ohio State and Michigan in back-to-back weeks in the Big Ten title game.
And Michigan would have to win, right? Yeah,
Michigan has to win. Oregon has to lose, and Indiana has to lose. And that's how we get Ohio State, Michigan. I don't think that's even has a possibility of happening, but there is a scenario where that exists.
You know how much they would hold it over Ohio State fans if they beat them 2 weeks in a row? Do you have any idea how much they would hold it over them? Oh, boy. Okay, the big thing here is I will be honest with you. Not that football games should be taken for granted, but I'm kind of riding the assumption that Indiana. Curt Cignetti did not come all this way to get to the last week of the season and lose to Purdue.
Yeah. Because
Purdue has not won a game since week 2. So I am kind of just all of your crazy Purdue beating Indiana scenarios.
They're 28.5-point favorites right now. By the way.
I'm sure they are, and they beat. What was it? They beat them last year like 63-7 or something like that. I am not sitting here, and I'm not going to waste a whole lot of brain cells on Indiana losing to Purdue. That's not a thought. Now, this Ohio State-Michigan one, because when you talk about, well, all Ohio State's got to do is win and get in, they haven't beaten Michigan since 2020.
Yep.
And it's in the Big House, and I am sure part of the motivation for sitting Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate this week was, hey, we need you in Ann Arbor. Yeah. Right, because you're not winning that. Look, Michigan's still got a really good defense. You've got Wink Martindale calling the plays. That battle against Julian Sayin, a redshirt freshman, is going to be fun. And I will say this: I think one of the good things that has come out of this recent stretch after their bye week, where Carnell Tate's been banged up and Jeremiah Smith didn't play this week, Ohio State's running the ball a lot better. Mm-hmm. And one thing I was worried about maybe a month ago, looking ahead to this Michigan matchup, was, is Ohio State going to be too one-dimensional? Are they too reliant on Sayin? The emergence of the true freshman back, Bo Jackson, good name to have as a tailback, that's really, I think, something that could make a big difference in this game. But it's Ohio State, Michigan. You never know. It's going to be a war. Oregon, same idea. Listen, we know going down to Seattle up there, that's kind of the house of horrors there. We've seen Washington ruin a couple of Oregon seasons before. Now, it's not Michael Penix Jr. anymore, but it's certainly not a freebie there either. So we got storylines all across with these teams in the Big Ten. But the one assumption that I feel safe, college football being what it is, that we can make is that Indiana is going to be playing in the Big Ten title game. I know these other teams got great fan bases. But, boy, I got to think a lot of people are going to be up from Bloomington to Indianapolis. That's only about, a 30-minute ride to get up there?
Yeah.
That's going to be a whole lot of Indiana people in that building.
Even if, say, all Indiana needs is either them to win as a 28.5-point favorite or Ohio State to win as a 12.5-point favorite. So you would need two big upsets.
Ohio State's 12.5?
Yeah, 12.5 right now.
No. I'll be honest with you. We'll see who I pick in the game straight up. Boy, I like Michigan at plus 12.5.
Yeah, we'll see. But, again, all they need is one of those two things to happen in order to get in. Oregon, again, just have to win and Ohio State to lose, and Michigan has to win and Oregon loses or Indiana loses as well. So, SEC and Big Ten.
12.5.
Yeah.
Did they not learn from last year? It was, what was it last year? It was 21, I think?
It was a lot. It was over 20, I think.
It was 20.5 or 20. I was just on principle. I'm not taking Ohio State. They haven't beat them in 5 years.
Yeah, in Ann Arbor, too.
Yeah, I'm not taking I wouldn't take Ohio State at 12.5. I mean, this isn't the betting show, but, damn. That's
we'll get to our picks
kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oregon 7.5-point favorites, if anyone's wondering, as well, over Washington, too. So, SEC and Big Ten, relatively simple, I would say. Big 12 and ACC is complete chaos right now. So we did our best, honestly, to get all the scenarios for you guys. If there's some that we missed or if some that are slightly wrong, please let us know in the comments. But nobody knows right now. I feel like everyone's trying to map it out all in their head. This is what we could come up with for the Big 12, at least. So the two teams that control their own destiny are Texas Tech and BYU. Texas Tech, win and you're in, or Arizona State loses to Arizona, you're also in to Dallas. BYU, win, and also against UCF, and also like Texas Tech, if Arizona State loses, you're good. Arizona State, you need to win and BYU to lose, or win and Texas Tech loses and Utah to lose as well. For Utah, win, BYU to win, Arizona State to win, and Texas Tech to lose, or if BYU somehow loses, win, Arizona State to win, Texas Tech to lose, Cincinnati to win, and Kansas State to win. Based off some tiebreakers, they would also, I believe, get in. I was playing around with the simulator last night, Dalton. So if you're Utah, you definitely need Arizona State to win, and you definitely need Texas Tech to lose. The easier way for you is for BYU to also win, but if BYU somehow loses, if Cincinnati wins and Kansas State wins, Utah will get in as well.
Yeah, Utah has some weird advantages in 3 and maybe even 4-way tiebreakers. I think it's something to do with conference strength of schedule and things like opponents' records and things like that. Hence the Kansas State and Cincinnati still getting mentioned because Utah has now beaten both of those teams, right? So they need more wins from those teams to make themselves look better and all of that. Here's the thing: and I think for both of these conferences, the Big 12 and the ACC, for as complicated, especially here in the Big 12 as it looks, the most likely scenario, we think, is the simplest one. Texas Tech is at West Virginia.
They're minus 21, by the way.
Texas Tech is better than West Virginia.
Yeah.
But, we've seen West Virginia. Look, remember what they did to Houston, right?
True.
They can be spunky at home, and they know they're playing spoiler, and it's still Rich Rodriguez over there. They know how this works. And BYU is playing UCF at home. UCF is 5-6. It's not the best 5-6 I've ever seen, and I have to think Kalani Sitake is telling his team, because remember the 2 big losses they had last year to Kansas and Arizona State. I got to think the message now after this huge win they got here in Cincinnati is finish the job. Finish the job. Don't screw around. We get UCF. We get them in our stadium. It's winning in. Everything is in our own hands. Let's get it done, right? I have to think that's the message from Kalani Sitake. So I do think the simple scenario here is the most likely one. Arizona State, the biggest thing looming for them, which is why they're in at least a decent spot, is that win they have over Texas Tech earlier in the year. The only team in the conference that has beat them. The only team all year, actually, that has beat them. Look, Arizona State, it's kind of weird that very quietly they are in this with the next best shot with Sam Leavitt out. Jeff Sims playing decent football. Got a win over Colorado last night. Got a fight from Colorado for about 2.5, 3 quarters. But Arizona State, they're playing Arizona, of course, and they get the rivalry game. And, well, that's always dangerous, too. You get rivalry weekend coming, and these are the things that can happen. So they have a harder task, really, on paper than Texas Tech and BYU do. And then Utah, that's just, that's a lot. that's a lot that they need to have.
Well, basically, you need Texas Tech to lose, and then I think Arizona State and BYU just to win as favorites in the year end.
Yeah, and
that's the most likely one.
Because that puts you. That's a 4-way tie, right?
Yeah.
Who would they play? Do you know who they would play in that? Is it
there's actually a lot of Utah versus BYU scenarios, which would rock.
Jeez.
Which would rule. That would be pretty awesome.
That would be something. But I still think
you need a massive upset by West Virginia.
Most likely at the end of the day. The most likely scenario is we're getting a rematch of Texas Tech and BYU. Those 2 games that they're playing are take care of business type games. Little weird. Again, UCF trying to get in a bowl game, and Texas Tech has to go on the road into West Virginia. So you never know, and the last week is always the last week, and these are the things that can just throw everything upside down because that's college football. But I do like those 2 teams' chances right now as the favorites in the driver's seat to get it done.
Again, Texas Tech, all I got to do, and BYU, all I got to do is win, or if Arizona State loses to Arizona, which is also certainly possible considering that it's going to be a really, really good game, that also puts BYU and Texas Tech into the Big 12 title game. Arizona State needs some help with a win. Utah needs even more help with a win as well.
And say this for Utah, because this is going to be a game that we do preview, oddly enough. Utah going to Kansas, still whether they are in the Big 12 title game or not, still a huge game considering where they are in the rankings. And is there any conversation about, for you, we'll find out your bracket in a second here in Utah and everything that may or may not be involved with that. Is a close win over K-State, does that drop them down a spot? Is Miami argument in there? Like what?
Yeah.
There's a lot of still at-large implication with Utah with where they are that they need this road win at Kansas regardless of the Big 12
Exactly.
result.
No, they are certainly alive in the at-large discussion. I personally think, I've said all along they should be behind Miami right now. The committee has not agreed with that. Maybe with this close win over Kansas State, maybe they'll put Miami over Utah. I don't know what they'll do. I personally think it would take probably way too much in order for Utah to get in as an at-large. So I think the most likely or probably only path is to get in by winning the Big 12. But we'll see how the committee ranks them, honestly, this week. It should be actually really telling ranking, I think, for Utah and how likely their chances are. Because if Miami jumps them this week, I don't know how likely it is that Utah can get in as an at-large. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the committee ranks them for sure.
There's some big games here. Miami's got a big game themselves. They got to go on the road and get a big road win themselves against a hot team too now.
Yeah, speaking of that, let's get to the chaos one. You thought Big 12 was chaotic. We'll get to the ACC. There are 6 teams alive right now in the ACC race, and none of them have clinched a spot in the title game yet. The 6 teams that are alive right now, you got Virginia. Virginia, win, and you're in. This is how small the text look because this is how crazy.
Get a screenshot of it now because you're not going to be. You might not be able to read all of it. By the time
God, I hope I got it right. I did this late night last night. I woke up at like 5 a.m. this morning. We're trying to read a bunch of articles and also do some research myself. I hope I got this right. Good chance I didn't get it completely right though. So Virginia winning, you're in. Or if you lose to Virginia Tech, SMU loses, NC State loses, and Syracuse loses. Okay. Virginia. That Syracuse-Boston College game, which is like one of the most disgusting games all year, actually matters in this ACC race, honestly. SMU also win, and you're making it to your second straight ACC title game in your only 2 years in the conference so far. If SMU loses, you need Pitt to lose, Duke to lose, NC State to lose, and Virginia to lose. So both Virginia and SMU win and you're in. Pittsburgh now, the big win over Georgia Tech. Win and Virginia to lose, or win and SMU to lose, and you make it to Charlotte. Georgia Tech now, because they don't play a conference game next week because they play Georgia, they need both Virginia and SMU to lose in order for Georgia Tech to make it in to the ACC title game. Miami has a bunch of scenarios. Win, SMU win, Duke to lose, Virginia to lose. Or win, Virginia wins, Duke loss, SMU loss, NC State win, and Syracuse win. Or win, Duke win, Virginia loss, SMU loss, and NC State win. Or win, SMU loss, Duke loss, Virginia loss, and also Syracuse or NC State win as well. Finally, Duke win, Pitt to lose, and SMU to lose, or win, Pitt loses, Virginia loses, and also NC State loses as well. Again, ACC is absolutely chaotic. I hope I got it perfectly right. Again, good chance I didn't get it perfectly right, but Dalton, that's the best I could do for what is a completely cluster F of a concert.
Something what I think we just need to real quick on that rundown, just the opponents that we're dealing with here with these games as well. Miami and Pitt are playing each other, which is obviously a huge game, right? Virginia's got the rivalry game. They're hosting Virginia Tech. NC State is hosting North Carolina, and you mentioned that in there. SMU has to go out west and go play Cal, who has been solid this year and especially got a dangerous quarterback. Duke is playing Wake Forest, and Duke, that might be the most amazing one out of all of them, that they're even still alive somehow here with the season. What are they, 6-5 now? They're 6-5, and yet they're alive to win this conference, which still could be a nightmare scenario here. And Miami needs Duke to lose for the sake of, they lose all the like Duke wins somehow. Duke with the opponent strength of schedule in conference and all that, Duke wins like all of the tiebreakers, which is just crazy to me. But that's why Miami needs Wake Forest to beat Duke, because they will not win a tiebreaker over Duke. That's a big thing.
I think there is one scenario, Duke wins, but if Duke wins, you need Virginia to lose, SMU to lose, and NC State to win. That's the one scenario where Miami will get it.
I mean, that's just, which
is not likely.
I would favor NC State to win, but at the end of it all, what you're looking at, and the timing of these games is fun because, of course, they went Miami-Pitt. So Miami-Pitt's going to be at noon. The Duke-Wake game is going to be at 3:30. The Virginia game, Virginia Tech, and SMU-Cal are going to be night games on Saturday.
Interesting.
Those are the two games that you go, okay, the chaos can just end here, because Virginia and SMU are the winning in teams.
Yes.
Okay, those are the two. And then, Pitt, if they can beat Miami at home, then they're sitting on the edge of their seat with those two games. Miami, they'll just be sitting there all day watching all the chaos happen, right? And then Duke at 3:30, I mean, who knows where it could go. But the two winning in games, of course, for our entertainment, they made them the last games of the day. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I think that's the mindset that, to me, with just the sheer chaos that the ACC is. Remember the Big 12 last year? We've been saying this the whole time.
Yeah.
This is from the Big 12 last year to the ACC this year. But the lesson is Virginia and SMU, driver's seat. You've got the wheel. It's all yours. Either one of them, or heaven forbid, both of them lose, then you've got chaos. This doesn't have to be chaotic, but it's up to Rhett Lashley and SMU. It's up to Tony Elliott at Virginia to not make it chaotic, and it's college football, and it's rivalry weekend. SMU having to go out to the West Coast, man, to finish. And listen, huge win, dominant win over Louisville, right?
Yeah.
Go out to Cal, get a win the ACC title. I don't think we've talked enough about it. Man, Rhett Lashley could bring him to the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Just got a big extension, too. Well-deserved extension.
Clearly.
Awesome coach. We actually interviewed him on the show earlier on, too. Awesome guy. And, there was a lot of talk about him going back to his alma mater in Arkansas, and they put those rumors to bed by just signing him to that extension and making him, I believe, one of the 10 highest-paid coaches, I believe, right now in college football, and very much deserved, because what he's doing in that program right now is absolutely incredible. The fact, I don't know if I've ever seen a season before where you go into the last weekend and not a single power conference team has clinched a spot in conference title weekend.
I'll tell you one better than that. The only team in the whole country, group of 5 included, that has clinched a spot in their conference title game is James Madison.
Wow.
The only and that's the only conference still with divisions. The Sun Belt.
That's true.
That's the only team out of the 18 that we know will be in a conference title game is James Madison hosting the Sun Belt title game against either Troy or Southern Miss, the winner of that game on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Actually, no, I think that game's on Friday. It's on Black Friday.
Big game.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we move on to the Heisman rankings, and we're not going to do it. We didn't have a graphic made for the American, but I think it is worth talking about because American Conference most likely still is going to be the one that has the group of 5 representative in the playoff. You were talking to me in the car about it before. It was just way too complicated for me to understand it. Can you just, for the listener, what do you know, like the scenarios in your head of what it could
be? So the American tiebreakers are weird because the head-to-head matters, but we could get in a case where it's a 3-way thing. Now, so the sequencing of the tiebreakers, I'm not sure how it resets or not, but basically here's what you're looking at. Because Tulane is ranked, and they will continue to be ranked, they're playing Charlotte this week. They're probably going to beat Charlotte. That's the worst team in the American. If Tulane wins, they're going to be in.
Yeah.
And they are more than likely going to be hosting because they'll be the highest ranked American team. Now, if North Texas plays Temple, they play Temple at home, and Navy has to go to Memphis on Thanksgiving night, okay? If we do get a 3-way tie, I think, I'm like 99% sure, unless they decide in the CFP to rank Navy and not North Texas or something like that. And it might even reset to the head-to-head anyway. It's just not going to happen. If all 3 in the American, because East Carolina lost, so you have right now Tulane at 6-1, North Texas 6-1, Navy 6-1. It feels like if it's winning in for Tulane and North Texas, and if Navy is going to get in, they have to beat Memphis at Memphis, and they need one of those 2 teams to get upset, and it would be a pretty big upset. More likely Temple beating North Texas,
okay,
if that makes sense. So Tulane is in the driver's seat. If they beat Charlotte, which they should, the American title game will be at Yeoman Stadium in New Orleans. If North Texas wins, I would say in all likelihood they're the team that's going to go play them.
Got it.
And
okay.
Navy needs a loss and a pretty solid size upset from one of those 2 teams. It's also, and I was going to get into this when you got to your playoff bracket here, but if none of these teams lose this weekend, especially Tulane and North Texas, I actually don't see unless all of a sudden, especially with the way they barely beat Washington State, I'm not sure I see much of a road for James Madison to get to the playoff here.
Yeah.
The resumes of these other teams are just better, and they're going to get better if we get a Tulane North Texas title game. They might both be ranked.
I would argue right now, and we'll get to the playoff bracket later, I would argue right now James Madison has the best resume, but the problem is, like, you're right, when they do play each other, whoever wins that game will have a huge boost in resume.
If you want, we can discuss that part once we get to your bracket. Yeah. Because I have some thoughts on this as well from the James Madison angle. But I think still, if all 3 of these teams, or even just if Tulane and North Texas win this week, and that's the title game, I think that's just your play-in game.
Yeah.
I don't think James Madison, I don't think a win over Southern Miss or Troy
I would agree with that.
Can trump that.
I would agree with that, yeah. But I think right now James Madison is in my playoff. We'll get to that later on. But, yeah, I would agree that whoever wins if all 3 win this weekend, or all 2, I should say, it should be probably the winner of that American game. All right. That wraps up the conference title game scenarios. Hopefully that helps it make it a little bit clearer for you guys. I know for the ACC and Big 12, it probably makes it so much more complicated for all you guys out there, but hopefully it makes it a little bit easier and kind of use it as a cheat sheet for what should be a wild Week 14. Dalton, let's get into our Heisman rankings right now, going into the final weekend of the regular season. Who is your top 5 for the Heisman Trophy?
All right, number 5. Going with the running back, going with the best back in the country, Jeremiah Love.
Okay.
I know I hate to bring up Notre Dame, Syracuse again, but
please talk. Yeah,
it's kind of necessary. And look, Jeremiah Love, he has the highest rushing grade in the country. He is very high in the rankings when it comes to rushing yards, and I just want to get his official line right in this game. Max, 8 carries, 171 yards, and 3 touchdowns with a 92.2 rushing grade against your Syracuse Orange. 8 carries for 171 yards. And we were having the debate last week about, hey, don't take Ahmad Hardy out of that mix. Well, Ahmad Hardy only had, 57 yards against Oklahoma? All right, I'm back on the Jeremiah Love train. Give me Jeremiah Love, number 5. Number 4, didn't play this week. Highest graded defensive player in the country. Highest graded player in the country, Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, the linebacker. Number 3, you know what? I thought about this, and I switched it last minute. I've got Fernando Mendoza.
Wow.
At number 3.
Okay.
All right. Didn't play this week.
No.
Obviously, still has a chance to put up just monster numbers next week against Purdue.
Still minus odds to win the award, too.
I am sure Kurt Cignetti is going to let him. And honestly, this is very close between the top 3. So if he goes and wins the Big Ten, beats Ohio State, I have no issue with him winning.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just going to put him at number 3 because, you know what, my number 2 guy, I'll tell you what, it's hard not to believe in him right now, especially with the games he's put up the last 2 weeks and had to carry his team. I'm going Diego Pavia from Vandy at 2. I think when you look at, the rushing value that he adds, and you could even make this argument over Julian Sand. Maybe I'm even making the argument for Pavia to be number 1 at the moment, but talk about a guy. He set the school passing yards record this week against Kentucky. They didn't run the ball basically at all, and he was their leading rusher again in this game. The level that Pavia is playing at right now makes you believe he can go into Tennessee and win. And I'll tell you, the 2 big wrenches in this playoff race right now are Vanderbilt, if they beat Tennessee at Tennessee next week, and Michigan if they beat Ohio State. Those are the 2 big, just absolute. If either or both of those things happen, this playoff field's going to be this playoff. The arguing about it Sunday morning is going to be a disaster. Okay, but Pavia, the way he's carrying that team, I'm in on it. And then I'll leave Julian Sand from Ohio State at number 1 right now. Solid game this week, even though he played without his top 2 wide receivers. Leaned on the run game a little bit more here. And I think with Sand, it's more so, okay, we're going to find out now.
Yeah,
we're going to find out if you can be the guy for the first time in 5 years to go in and beat Michigan. And then if we get that, then we get Ohio State, Indiana, and we still might get the battle there. But I wanted to, the more I looked at it, I was like, man, Diego Pavia is the second highest graded quarterback in the country behind Sand. So a lot of the numbers, I was like, you know what? Let me throw Pavia at number 2 just to either stir the pot a little bit, or, I mean, he's really, what he's done this year, if he has, even if they lose, if he has some outstanding game against Tennessee next week, I'm starting to feel like he's going to be
I'll put him in New York.
The third guy going to New York, yeah. And then you kind of decide there probably between Rodriguez and Love, because I think Haynes King, with what just happened against Pitt, probably drops out of that mix.
Well,
Marcel Reed's
probably going to go. He's probably going to go.
He's got a big game left to go too, though.
He does.
A darn good defense.
He does. Actually, Marcel Reed dropped in the Heisman odds. He's 5th in Heisman odds now, a distant 5th.
You got Diego Pavia. I mean,
interesting. Man. All right, I didn't actually look at that. All right.
Well, Reed gets a shot. Black Friday against Texas.
Yes,
in Austin.
Big game. We actually have the same 5 players, just in different orders for my ranking. So my number 5 actually is Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt, who's, like Dalton said, the second highest graded quarterback in the country right now. At number 4 for me is Jeremiah Love, the running back at Notre Dame, 93.2 PFF grade, highest among all running backs in the country. He's second in the Power 4 in rushing yards behind Ahmad Hardy, about 100 less rushing yards than Ahmad Hardy. The difference to me, though, he has 250 more receiving yards than Ahmad Hardy this year, too. So I think Jeremiah Love has been the best running back in college football. He checks in at number 4 for me after just tearing up my Syracuse Orange this weekend. Number 3, the highest graded player in college football, that is Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker at Texas Tech. They were off this past week, but a 93.8 grade overall for Jacob Rodriguez. 95.4 run defense grade is the best among all players in college football, and a 93.3 coverage grade, the best among all players in college football. He has been incredible. One of the best linebacker seasons I think I've ever seen in college football. I think he should go to New York for the Heisman ceremony. At number 2 for me is the betting favorite right now to win the award. That is Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback at Indiana. Again, they were off this past week, but he has still been obviously a phenomenal quarterback for Indiana this year, with the 5th best PFF grade in the country this year, the 2nd best passer rating in the country this year, only behind Julian Sand, the most passing touchdowns in the country this year as well. He has been phenomenal for Indiana. All they got to do, beat Purdue, beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, and I would pretty much lock it up that Mendoza is going to win the Heisman Trophy. But at number 1, it was a quiet game for him, obviously. Still is Julian Sand, the quarterback at Ohio State. He's the quarterback of the number 1 team in the country, has the best PFF grade in the country for all quarterbacks, and actually I think he's second among all players behind Jacob Rodriguez, 93.3 PFF grade. He's been incredible all year, one of the most accurate quarterbacks we've ever seen in college football. He is now, unfortunately, Dalton, below 80% completion percentage. He's 79.4 now.
How dare he?
79.4. So I don't know if that'll break the record anymore, an 84.4% adjusted completion rate, but we'll see this week. Again, this is a big one. If he beats Michigan and has a good game against Michigan, I think a lot of more people will be in on Julian Saint to win the Heisman. And I think if he beats Michigan, beats Indiana, and has pretty good games in both those games, I think Julian Saint probably will win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I still think the numbers have Pavia looming there kind of weird because of the rushing and what he adds and the way he carries that team. But, oh, no, it's going to be a fun.
I don't think Pavia can win it. Even if they beat Tennessee.
I wouldn't take him out of it. I'll tell you something, too.
I don't think he can win it.
I know it's like this.
I think he can go to New York,
I know it's like a thing where only 4 guys get invited. I feel like if Pavia was 5th like he is in your rank, he might show up anyway.
Yeah.
Just to be.
Oh, just be there?
Yeah. Just to be like, listen,
rock,
just in case somehow the voters just went.
Eric Andre is like, let me in on the outside of the Heisman ceremony. Yeah.
Oh, no, he'd get in.
Yeah.
He would find it. He'd climb through the vents and get in there, I think. But,
unfortunately, I don't think a Tennessee win. I don't think for the voters, for us, we could say he deserves it, but I don't think
you go out there and put up another 450 yards of total offense on the road at Tennessee and maybe get yourself in the playoff.
Yeah, maybe. And honestly,
there's at least an argument.
If we get Ohio State to lose to Michigan and maybe Indiana loses to Ohio State, maybe.
Oh, the only other factor I'll throw in here is Kurt Cignetti is going to let Mendoza put up numbers.
Yeah, he will.
On Purdue. He's. I don't know if you'll see Alberto this week.
I
don't know about all
I
that.
Still think I don't think Jeremiah Love's going to win it either. No. I think the only two that can win it is Mendoza and Saint.
I agree. I'm like 99% sure that's correct, but I do think Pavia looms as like if I was picking a third guy that I would go, okay, has a shot, I think it'd be Pavia.
Yeah.
I think the other two would be battling for a spot in New York. Rodriguez, I mean, what a year he's had, and he's got another chance against West Virginia to put up numbers. And Love playing Stanford next week. And, I mean, he did what he did this week on 8 carries. Didn't even break a sweat.
Yeah.
You didn't even make him sweat. What are we doing?
It's tough. Tough for Syracuse. Yeah, Syracuse is down 20. Maybe the craziest stat I've ever seen. Syracuse is down 21-0 to Notre Dame. Notre Dame did not have a single offensive snap. They had 2 pick sixes and a block punt for a touchdown.
Leonard Moore, good player.
Yep.
Jalen Stroman, good player.
Good player, yep.
Man.
21-0, and C.J. Carr did not touch the ball. Well, I mean, it's good for C.J. Carr to be like, hey, man, I got a 21-point lead. I haven't broken a sweat yet.
You're making Notre Dame's playoff case for him right now. Jeez.
Well, we'll get to that. I'll get to that later.
Oh, boy.
If you need a Syracuse win to get into the playoff, that's on you. All right, let's go over the quickly upset picks. Eli is actually not here today. We gave him the day off because he actually got his upset pick right, Dalton, so we rewarded him with the day off.
Oh, so this was his no Sunday show?
It's actually, his no Sunday show just for getting it right. NC State over Florida State. I had Minnesota over Northwestern, and you had Kansas over Iowa State. So Eli hit, but we did not hit. Eli's kind of closing in on me with only a couple weeks left now.
This was the scenario I feared. I'm going to have to take like a plus 700 or whatever I need next week to have a chance here in the standings. I got to find the wildest, wackiest upset of the weekend.
Yep.
Man.
All right, let's get to the playoff bracket real quick to kind of close out the show. So actually, crazy enough, I believe like my top 10 or 11 even is like, or 12 maybe, is the same exact as going into the week. Actually, the entire playoff bracket is the same exact going into next week. So we got the byes: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Georgia. Those are the 4 teams that are receiving a first-round bye. As of right now, again, same exact rankings as this past week. First round, at least, we got Ole Miss against James Madison, Texas Tech against Miami, Oregon against Alabama, and BYU against Oklahoma. A couple things right here. Number 11, Miami, right there. They are my highest-ranked ACC team. That's why they're in for the ACC slot. But as we showed earlier on in the show, Miami needs a lot of help to get to the ACC title game. So Miami, most likely, only path is to get in as an at-large, which would probably mean getting the number 10 seed or higher for the Hurricanes this year. And like Dalton mentioned earlier, too, James Madison, to me, if the playoffs started right now, I would put in James Madison. But the problem for the Dukes right now is you have a couple teams in Tulane and North Texas. If they both win, they play each other in that American title game. Whoever wins that game, I think, will have the better resume than James Madison. They would get in over James Madison. So right now, James Madison is in. But I would say Tulane and North Texas probably have a better chance overall of making the college football playoff. As for the first 4 out, Notre Dame just missed out on making the playoff. Vanderbilt, Michigan, and Utah, to me, are the first 4 out for me.
So, again, the biggest difference in your rankings than the official ones are the placement of BYU there in the 8th spot, which I'm with you. I think it's especially this was another really good road win they had against Cincinnati. I don't know if it would be enough to move them ahead of one of these teams, but I think the lesson here is, look, we're making assumptions here, and it's a late night game out west, but making assumptions that Notre Dame is probably not losing to Stanford in all likelihood. You're going to see what you have this week is a group of teams that are rooting like all hell for Auburn to beat Alabama, for LSU to beat Oklahoma, for Mississippi State to beat Ole Miss, and for Washington to beat Oregon. Any of those teams, because Alabama would be out with 3 losses.
Yes.
Oklahoma's probably out with 3 losses,
yep.
especially if you get like a Vandy win or a Miami beating Pitt and all of that, right?
Oregon's in trouble.
Oregon's version of 10-2 is still not great. I don't want to call it must win at Washington, but it's not far from it.
So your best win would be over 9-3 USC.
I'm telling you,
theoretically.
Oregon's 10-2. And I don't think Ole Miss's version of 10-2 is great either outside of the Oklahoma win, which helps a lot in that scenario still. But then it's like, what do you do?
The Lane Kiffin factor is going to play a factor for that committee. It won't for us.
Maybe.
It won't for us, but it could for the committee.
Unless he's staying.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, God.
Unless he's staying.
It's like the LeBron decision on Saturday. I can't wait. They got to do like a televised special for it.
Well, did you see? I forget who it was. I saw somebody like making a theory about like, does he go on game day the next morning, Saturday morning, and just
rule? If you do that, Lane, if you're listening to the show, if you do that, you have to be staying. You can't pull LeBron and be like, I'm going to LSU or I'm going to Florida. You can't do that.
Take my talents down to Baton Rouge.
If you're going to LSU or Florida, you let one of the great reporters like Pete Nakos or whoever break that story. You do not announce that yourself because you do not. That'd be a horrible look for Lane Kiffin. If you're going to stay at Ole Miss, that game day idea is actually a really cool idea. I like that. But if not, you cannot go on game day and say you're going to LSU or Florida. That'd be a horrible PR move for him, I think. We'll see, though. We'll get to that later.
There's a lot. I'm looking at these rankings again because, I mean, I'm seeing, let's see, from this past week's rankings, the top 14 are all still alive going down to Vandy. Throw in Michigan, who I assume is going to be number 16.
Is Michigan winning in?
This is why they're the wrench.
Yeah.
Them and Vanderbilt are the wrenches because Vandy's going to end up staying. Did anybody else top 14 lose? Nobody did. Nobody in the top 14 lost this week.
Michigan would jump Vandy at 10-2.
But if Vandy's going on the road to play Tennessee. Tennessee's going to be number 18.
If Michigan beats Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country, they would jump Vandy.
And Vandy, I think the big problem is tiebreaker. They need Alabama to lose.
Yeah.
I think Vandy could very well get in if Alabama loses to Auburn. The problem is they will not. You can't head-to-head with them over Alabama.
No, you can't.
You can't put them. Vandy might be in a scenario if Alabama beats Auburn.
Well, the problem for Michigan, too, if they're 10-2 and Oklahoma's 10-2, Oklahoma, I should say, should get in because Oklahoma beat Michigan in week 2.
Do week 2 games count?
They better.
Yeah, you're right.
I do think if Michigan
wins.
I know
the week 1 games count.
Yeah. If Michigan wins, by the way, they should jump Vanderbilt and Notre Dame. And Miami, too, for that matter. I think that win is like, that vaults them up. Because they got to win over USC, too.
Man.
I'm sorry, USC beat Michigan. Sorry.
So we're talking about here the ACC thing being what it is. If Virginia, it's to me, I look at this and I go Vanderbilt and Michigan are the two. Because they're going to be rooting. I mean, you just look at some of these other scenarios. They're going to be rooting for Pitt. They're going to be rooting for Kansas to beat you. All the underdogs that these teams are rooting for. Oh, we're getting wild now, Max.
Yeah.
If we were to get a slew, if this was the week we were to get a slew of upsets, I wouldn't even know what to do with this.
Also, there is still a chaos scenario. We thought it was dead earlier. It is still alive. That ACC gets left out altogether. There is still a scenario.
Yeah, it is. That is way too simple a scenario for Duke to get in the title game.
Yeah,
that's way too simple.
And I wonder how
uncomfortably simple.
I wonder how they rank them against like a 3-loss team.
Who?
ACC.
Oh, if it was SMU, you mean, basically. I think SMU would get ranked.
Probably.
They would
over whoever wins the American and James Madison. Probably.
At least one of them. It would only take one.
It would only take one of them. Yeah.
They would get ranked over one of them. They would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone asking in the chat, why did Notre Dame drop this week? They didn't drop. I've always said Notre Dame should not be in the playoff right now. Now they can at the very end of the year. They can make it, but I still put head-to-head Miami over them, and I think Bama's got a way better resume at 10-2 than Notre Dame does at 10-2. So that's why this is my personal playoff bracket. The committee's bracket will have Notre Dame somewhere in the top 12. I also think BYU is severely underranked right now too at 10-1 right now. But that's I can guarantee you Notre Dame's gonna be somewhere at number 8 or number 9 in the committee's rankings. I just don't agree with it, and Notre Dame has always kind of been in this first 4 out for me for the last few weeks.
I do think the other story there is at number 12 where you have James Madison. I'm curious to see in this Tuesday's rankings. Tulane will obviously be ranked. They'll be number probably 21. I'm looking at this. They'll be probably number 20 or 21. Does North Texas and or James Madison get in the rankings, and in what order? Because I'm looking at Illinois lost, Missouri lost, Houston lost. That's 21, 2, and 3. There's going to be 3 spots. Those 3 teams are dropping out. Those are going to be 3 open spots for whoever is next. I'm curious to see who is next, and if it's both of them. If North Texas is ranked and James Madison is not, because they only beat Washington State by 4, I actually think it's over. And barring the crazy upsets that could potentially happen this coming week, then I think just the American champion is going to get it.
Anyone who's wondering, my personal top 25, I had James Madison 22, Tulane 23, North Texas 24. So it is quite literally.
And even if it's that close, even if it was a scenario. Now, Tulane's going to be the high. Tulane's probably going to be number 20 or 21 here now. Even if it was that close, I think the idea of Tulane and North Texas playing each other would win that battle anyway.
Yeah. Good Notre Dame fans in the chat, they're not very happy right now. Miami lost to SMU and Louisville. Miami chose to be beat by trash. Well, you lost to Miami. So
potential ACC champion, SMU?
Listen, you lost to Miami. Week 1 games count. I'm just saying that. We'll see what the committee does, but we'll get to that later.
I mean, with all of these teams, again, I'm looking at this 1 through 14 all either didn't play or they won this week. So in theory, the top 14, unless they mess around with Utah with the win they had, it's not gonna move.
God. Miami chose to be beat by trash. Well, then that means that you lost to a team that got beat by trash. Then that's your logic right there. Oh, God. All right, we'll get to that later on. But Dawn, Week 14, massive slate. Final weekend of the college football regular season. What are the games that we're going to be previewing on Tuesday?
Max, it starts in the SEC, of course, and it starts on Friday. How about 3 huge Black Friday games in the SEC, starting with Mississippi and Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl, the Lane Kiffin drama. Thanksgiving weekend, Lane Kiffin's going to choose to do this to us. Come on now, Lane. We're just trying to enjoy our holiday. Come back to FAU already. You also have Georgia Tech that day. You have Texas and Texas A&M. Could not be bigger, any 3 of those games. We went through the SEC scenario. Saturday, the Iron Bowl, as we've mentioned, all eyes will be on Alabama going to Auburn, trying to seal a playoff berth and a spot in the SEC title game themselves. Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, maybe continuing the Heisman run at Tennessee. They got to beat their biggest rival in order to try to get themselves into the playoff. And then, of course, Oklahoma, also in a seemingly win-and-in scenario, hosting LSU. We've got 6 games involving SEC teams this week, but we've got at least 6 more to talk about. Maybe we add more. Who knows? It's a circus. There's endless numbers of games this week. But, of course, the biggest game, Ohio State, Michigan, of course, in the big house. Can Ohio State break the streak? Can they stay number 1 in the country? Or, like you mentioned, is Michigan going to find their way into the playoff? Oregon and Washington, we've got also, you talk about rivalry week. It doesn't get any better than that. Oregon having to go up to Seattle and win that game to get in the playoff, or at least lock it in. Utah and Kansas, and I know this has very little, most likely Big 12 implications, but because they're on that at-large bubble, Utah's got to go to Kansas, and we just saw them struggle with Kansas State. We'll see where that goes. Then we get to the madness of the ACC. Early in the day, you get Miami having to go to Pitt, not only for the ACC race for both teams, but Miami and their at-large chances. Virginia Tech and Virginia. Virginia is winning in. They get in the ACC title game with a win, as does SMU having to go out west to play Cal. SMU gets a win. They are in. If both of those teams win, you will get an SMU-Virginia ACC title game, as everyone predicted in the preseason.
Yeah, we have a incredible slate of games in Week 14 to preview. Again, Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time is our Week 14 preview show. They're going to break down all 12 of those games for you guys this weekend. We have one more week in the college football regular season before we get to conference title weekend. So we'll see you guys on Tuesday at 1 p.m. For our producers back there in Tyler and Quinn, for Dalton, Wasserman, I'm Max Chadwick. Again, we'll see you guys Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for our full Week 14 preview show.